Hello. Okay, I'm live. Happy Saturday. Let's see, am I muted? Nope. My mic and my webcam, they're here. Hello. How's it going, everybody? Strum Eagle. Hello. Happy Saturday. Today is Saturday, right? Just double checking. Okay, it is Saturday. That's good. All right, I've got my tea and I am ready to paint. No plan today. I'm kind of tired today, which is pretty normal. But let's recap what we did last stream. So last stream, we did these thumbnails, which I liked. I actually didn't do this one last stream, but I brought it back for the voting. But I did all the others, and this is the one that we voted on, and I liked it. I liked this thumbnail. It was fun. It was very dark, so I want to lighten it up. I definitely have a tendency to paint very dark. Dark values, lots of very dark, shadowy shapes, kind of, I don't know. But I did like it. It was fun. Sort of this purple crystal thingy. Anyway, so maybe we'll try to lighten it up today. Stromeagle says, your day's going good. I went shopping this morning and got a couple of new things. Nice. Matcha Sage, how's it going? I keep wanting to say Wednesday, but happy Saturday. I don't even stream Wednesday. I don't know why my brain wants to say happy Wednesday. I don't know why. It doesn't even feel like a Wednesday. But yeah, how's it going, everyone? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, enjoy the new things that you bought. Getting new stuff's always fun. Although I don't feel like I buy many new things. I pretty much just kind of... I guess I'm very frugal. Hey, Fox Alvarez, how's it going? Happy Wednesday to you too. Yeah, totally. How's it going, Fox? How are you? How's the day? What if we do some light down here? Putting shapes down. Doing stuff. Starting off strong with just some color palettes, some, you know, again, no idea in particular, just lots of, I don't know, maybe we'll do big rounded shapes, like fluffy light stuff. I don't know. Maybe we'll contrast it with some nice, very light but not dark blue. Here I am tidying things up. Nice. What sort of... Are you like... What do you mean, like, your computer? Like, tidying up files? Or what sort of stuff are you tidying up? Man, I need to tidy up files. My computer... There are things in my computer that are just a mess. I haven't... It's not Wednesday. It is not Wednesday. It is a Saturday. It was a joke. I was trying to say Happy Saturday, but I just... There was part of me that was trying to say Happy Wednesday. And... So Matcha Sage was goofing right back at me. Yeah, nope. Just a joke. But yeah, how's it going? Your apartment. Okay. Like a summer cleaning, spring cleaning. I think this is more than 2. That is more than 2. Skittle, how's it going? Much more than 2. How are you? Dang, 70 streams. That's a lot of streams. You know what I might do with this painting? I might start the same way that I started, like, the puzzle painting, where I just put random blobs of color around. Not that I'm gonna do that. I think it's a fun way to start a painting. Winter. Yes, winter. Yeah, I'm bad at remembering. Yep, winter. Hope the day is going well. The day is going well. It's a good day so far. It's a little tired of a day. I didn't get in much of a nap after work, and so I'm basically just gonna be tired in a few hours. But right now I'm doing good. I'm doing well for now. We'll see how I am in a few hours, though. in a few hours. I mean, I always end up getting kind of like half brain dead during the stream. It's just hard to talk and paint and keep, because painting requires like you to make lots of choices. Obviously, you know this. Everybody knows this who's here probably. But for maybe those who don't do a lot of painting, painting is just constantly making choices. And after doing that for 2 hours while trying to also keep looking at chat and back and be talking while I'm doing it, sometimes about what I'm doing, sometimes not. It just kind of makes my brain into mush. So, but yeah, it's the mush brain will probably kick in a few hours. But so far it's so good, or so far so good. No mush brain yet. We will see. Ooh, what if this goes like that and we have some under shapes? Yeah, it's just a matter of time. But yeah, you know all about that because you also stream. By the way, Skittle streams, if you guys don't know. He will be live later today, I'm pretty sure. So you guys should follow him if you don't already. I'll just start the stream out with the shout out. A blue. There we go. I know, I feel like at this point I probably don't need to shout you out, but I feel like I've been slacking on my shout outs. Yeah. I've just not been good at them lately. This makes me think, this painting reminds me a bit of a desert. It's very deserty. It makes me think of like cactus, kinda. Cacti. Cactuses. The shout. Yeah. No problem. Okay, I don't know. That was a quick thumbnail. We did that in like less than 5 minutes or something. Okay, let's do another one. Per pink. Maybe we'll go from left side to right side, pink to blue. I don't know. That could be a fun. I enjoy doing that. These sort of like, I don't have a word for it, but basically just like a gradient from like warm to cool. Either going, I typically do it like top to bottom, where I'll do like a cool tone on the bottom and then a warm tone on top. Sort of like as you go from this, you know, like if you're doing like a forest or something, the top of the canopy can be warm, and then as you get down, it gets much cooler. Something like that. But it's fun to try and split it up in other ways too, where you do kind of left to right or diagonal. I don't know. It's just a fun. I find it just a fun way to start. Although I don't really know how I'm gonna do it this way. I mean, we could do like if we were inside to outside type thing. So we could do like the outside is here, or maybe it's like outside looking in or inside looking out into the cool, and here is where on the inside, or maybe we're on the outside. I don't know. I'm not sure what we're doing. I'm just gonna put warm colors over here and a little bit of warm color over here too, kind of like a yin yang type thing, right? I mean, it's kind of just like that's kind of a graphic design type of thing, right? Where you like, if you're gonna have instead of putting a line straight down the middle, you kind of put a little bit of the blue over there, but also a little bit of the pink over there. So it's not purely like divided perfectly down the middle. That's kind of what I'm doing. Trying to bring some of those warms. Because I do that in the sky too, right? Like if you have a sky that's bright yellow, you can put some of that yellow down to the ground reflected. Or if you have like a green that's, you know, like the grass is green or something, you can put some green, maybe the trees are hanging the branches in front of the foreground, and so it's kind of like, it's putting it essentially in the sky. Oh, I don't know, just balances the painting. That's what I find anyway. I think it's hard. I don't know if I've ever made like left to right gradient work. I'm sure there's a good way to do it with the right narrative or something. I don't know. I don't have a clue. So I'm just painting with blue. That rhymed. Look at me, rhyming. Okay, this is something. Yeah, but those are colors. They don't look good. Maybe if I put the colors in more blobby, fashion, like this, it'll like allow me to kind of squint and see something in the cloud shapes. It's kind of like looking up at the clouds and trying to discover a shape in the mess. That's what I'm gonna do. Muffin, hello! Did I... Oh, you... Okay, I think you just typed hello. I was like, I thought I just looked at chat and I didn't see you. Hi! How's it going, Muffin? Okay, so there's some colors. Maybe on the top... Ooh, maybe within these little gradients. So, like, here's a pink gradient. Maybe on top of the pink gradient, we put, like, a different color. So we still do, like, an orange... something. Over here, we can do yellow. Ooh, this definitely feels like a cloudscape, actually. Actually, that's a cloudy shape. How are we doing? I am doing well. I don't know about we as a group, but I am doing well. I've been pretty tired for some reason. I've also been tired, but it's a good tired. I mean, I'm tired, but I don't know. I think I'm doing good. I have no reason to complain, other than maybe a little tired. But you know, it's because I went to sleep too late. That was a choice, and I'll be able to sleep. It's not like I'm unable to sleep because I'm so dang busy or anything. I'm not. But yeah, I do like these darker colors though. They're kind of darker blues down here. It's kind of nice. Again, don't know what I'm painting. I'm just kind of putting blobs. They do give me a little bit of cloud shapes. Kind of reminds me of that sunset-y painting we did recently. Maybe I'll put some bottom to the clouds. The clouds are three-dimensional forms too, right? So, like, even though you can paint a nice cloudscape with just big shapes and poofy clouds that look like your classic, you know, kindergarten cloud like this, or flat on the bottom, right? So you're a little bit more sophisticated. That flat on the bottom cloud shape is actually like a shadow, right? It's a three-dimensional form. Clouds, you could draw them as a cube, and they still have a direction of light where they're light on top, like a bright, very bright color on top, oftentimes where the sun's hitting, but then underneath they're still gonna have that they still might be bright, but they're gonna have shadow, right? Oftentimes it's gonna be that bluish color because it's up where the sky is reflecting up or whatever. But you still have a base, right? So you get these poofy clouds. They do have an underside, so that's kind of what and that underside is it's like a form, right? They're three-dimensional forms. So I want to try to put some sort of underside in here. Now, it doesn't have to be hard-edged. It could be soft. It could be, it could be hard-edged. But that's my quick cloud tip. But yeah. That sucks that you're tired, though, Muffin. Hopefully you can get some rest soon. There. That's some clouds. Now, I am not a good person to give cloud tips. I don't feel like I am a good cloud painter. I have like a handful of ways that I can paint clouds, but I'm not like an expert at them. I obviously, but I mean, there's tons of references out there, so you can always gather references. Also, some, for realistic skies, the bottom is where the sky meets the horizon line, or your eye line, or the horizon, I guess. Actually, the horizon, not the horizon line, but like literally the further you go, it does also get lighter, typically. So you oftentimes have, like, if you look straight up in a blue sky day, it's darker, and if you look down, it's near the horizon, it's a little lighter. Although I don't know if that's necessary to put if you're just doing a skyscape, because you could be looking. But anyway, Strum Eagle says, "I love drawing clouds. I don't do them much, but I enjoy it." Yeah, they're nice for a change. They really are. I mean, because they're such an organic shape, you can really do almost anything with them, you know? Like, if you want to just play around with wild shapes, like, you can do that. They're kind of like painting trees, you know? I mean, except with trees, you put branches, but they're, I mean, you know, they're almost the same shape as trees in many cases. You can have little wispy branches or wispy leaves, right? Like, if you're drawing a, you know, I mean, this could be a tree, right? Here's a tree. Um, or, you know, something like that, right? That could be a tree, literally. Or you could have a tree that's like little wispy cloud, you know, wispies like this. And that could be your tree, right? That could also be clouds, right? You could do little wispy clouds that kind of make a line somewhere. They're kind of like in sort of two-dimensional graphic design type thing, right? When you're just putting shapes in the sky, like they're kind of occupy the same place in the canvas as a tree would go, you know? The upper portion. So I find they're surprisingly similar. You know, trees typically can be a little darker, obviously, so there's differences, but you know, not that different. I'm not sure I like these colors either, but yeah, clouds are fun. Let's put some dark foreground though. Oftentimes, if you are painting skies, though, or at least if I should speak not to, well, okay, if I'm painting skies, oftentimes I don't want to have a ton of contrast in the sky. Like, I think you can do a ton of contrast in the sky if you're just doing a sky picture. Like, if you were doing an entire painting that's going to be just of clouds, I think you could go super dark in the shadows. Um, and not just if it's like dark clouds, but just like almost like if you're taking a camera and having it autofocus in the sky, but it does the auto contrast thing where like the darkest part turns to near black and the brightest part turns to near white. So all that range of values is condensed into your sky. Like, I think that's okay. But in my experience, if you're going to have a ground in there, you typically want the stuff on the ground that's nearest to you going to be much darker than anything in the sky. Like, you're never going to, because, you know, ultimately clouds are white pretty much. I mean, you know, they obviously have very dark shadows that isn't going to be white on your canvas, but I think if you're going to have like a tree line, you're never going to have a cloud that's literally darker than a tree, unless you're, I don't know, some reason, but I don't know why it would be. So yeah, it is nice to put like a dark horizon line in here, whether it's like a tree line or something. I just find it looks very nice. I don't know, something like that. It just gives a kind of lets you know where that value range is. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Just gonna carve out some of these shapes. And maybe some of these shapes have like, I don't know, different stuff. Maybe we do little swooshes and little negative spaces back here or something. I don't know. Right, so like here's a little cloud shape in 3 dimensions, right? Kind of like that. I think it's fine to come in here and make little negative spaces and additional little, you know, a dark line here followed by a light line here. I think that could look nice. Basically just, you go falling back on sort of graphic design principles as opposed to like, you know, worrying about if it's accurate or not. It's more like, does it just look good? I don't know. Again, I'm not amazing at that. But I tried. There. That looks like something. Maybe we can go a little brighter down here. Could do some, like, low-hanging clouds. And then maybe we reflect some of the sky down here. Whatever it is, you know. Some reflection, some of that blue. There. That's a painting. Okay, next thumbnail. Maybe we'll doodle on that one more later. What should we do here? I don't know. Maybe some purple. But yeah, it would be fun to do like a sky... I don't know. Sky stuff's... Or we could do more sky paintings. Actually, we could do more right now. Maybe we do like... skies, but not with blue and... You know, not your classical sky colors. So maybe more grays and greens or something. I don't know. I think the thing I don't like about skies is that it's hard to do, like, subject matters in the skies. I mean, you could do, like, floating islands, which is maybe what we could do. We could do, like, a floating island thing. I don't know. I do like my floating islands, though. Floating islands are great. They're like, you know, classic fantasy, kind of just easy-going subject matter. It's hard not to like them. Like, from the painting perspective. I mean, it's fun to... Like, because it's one of those things where it's sort of like if you're do creatures, right? You probably... I feel like if you paint creatures, or if you're a creature designer, you probably like painting dragons. Because you have to design every dragon, right? I mean, you could just have a dragon, like, a template in your head that you kind of rely on. But, like, they don't exist, right? So you kind of have to make them up. Or you're using someone else's design, right? One of the two. Or I guess you're using your own design, and you're just going through the motions. But I feel like it's imaginative in that you know, rarely are you just finding a photo of a dragon online and you're painting it. Right? Because, like, I don't know. It just, at least for me, if I were if I were a creature designer, that's kind of, it would just feel kind of weird, I think. And that's kind of how I feel about floating islands for landscapes. So, like, if I find a picture of a floating island on the internet, it's going to be someone else's art. Like, there's no way around it. It's not like, oh, this is the real floating islands of whatever place. Like, they don't exist. So it makes more sense to come up with them on your own, kind of. Especially as someone who already designs landscapes. So, I don't know. I think I feel like there's kind of a similarity there. Where it's just like the epitome of a fantasy landscape. Is just this thing that doesn't exist, that is recognizable. It's been drawn a lot. It's not exactly a new subject, but it is... Every time you do it, there is still design work and, you know, invention that has to be done. I'm trying to think, what is like, I guess that, you know what, that's probably a bit of, like, people drawing elves. That's probably similar to that, too. Like, you like drawing humans, but you want to add, like, a fantasy twist, and again, it's not some totally new subject matter, but, like, you know, it's kind of like, again, with environments, you know, floating landscapes, it's the same trees, the same rocks, the same clouds, the same sky, but you're just making them a fantasy twist by making them floating, you know? I feel like there's sort of this easy to draw fantasy thing, or there's like an easy to draw fantasy subject matter in each genre. I don't know. Maybe that's not a good comparison, but I feel like, you know, drawing elvish characters or dragons or floating islands. I don't know. Maybe, is there a better version? I guess castles are kind of that. Although there's enough real castles that I guess maybe it doesn't quite work. I don't know. I feel like castles could get pretty close too. Because everybody likes drawing giant castles and towers. If you do environments, like, that's pretty fun too. maybe castle is castles are a bit closer because to like the elvish thing. Because like the difference between an elf and a human is pretty minimal, and the difference between a fantasy castle and a real castle is very minimal. It's just like you could just do like a slightly different shape. I don't know. I'm just rambling. Rambling. Okay, let's paint some little thingies that connect this. Oh, I just realized I wasn't looking at the proper chat. So if anybody on YouTube was talking, that I missed it. Nope, doesn't look like it. By the way, I do stream on YouTube. Same, just while I'm live on Twitch, I'm streaming on YouTube. Mostly so that there's a VOD. I try to have it so that when the recording is just when I end stream, it automatically saves on YouTube. And to do that, I need to be streaming on YouTube. YouTube isn't really my main place. I don't really, I don't want to, pay any more attention to YouTube than I do on Twitch. Twitch is still my number one. My number one. It's my number one place. Fantasy places. But yeah, something we've been talking about, and I haven't done anything with it yet, but a gray box painting. I was thinking about maybe trying to get it ready for Monday. Basically taking like these gray box models, so essentially just like a 3D model that's just gray. There's no texture, no material, no design. It's just like a layout. Think of like a, in a video game level, if you could like, have a building, you might just make a box and be like, that'll eventually be the building. But it's not right now. It's just a simple box, or it could be a pile of rocks, right? So it's just a square that could represent anything. And then taking like a jumble of gray masses and putting it on Discord and having the community and everybody draw on them together. So like everybody would take these images and you could do like a paint over and kind of design a space over the geometric forms. I thought that would be fun, and then see if like all the different takes that people have on it. I don't know. I thought that might be a fun thing to do. Monday might be a good time for that. I don't know. I haven't decided. It also depends on how easy it is to find some, because I don't really want to make them myself. But I'm sure there's some out there that I can just, take screenshots of or download. So that's probably what I'll do. But yeah, if anybody wants to join, I think I'll try to get that done for Monday. And if anybody feels like trying to find some on their own, and if you do find any, let me know, because it would save me some work. Basically, it would save me a Google search. Okay, what if so these are like little floating island things, but what if these floating islands had a little bit of spice to them, a little bit of color, some maybe some golden glows, almost like if it's like a literal gold material or something, floating in, contrasting that blue classic color combo, the complementary colors. We got the blue and the orange. I think that could look nice. Something like that. Also, what's going on in this song? It sounds very... Here. Skip it. There we go. Yeah, so this could be... We could do little, like, buildings and spires or something. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll draw little shapes here. I don't want to go too detailed. Again, this is just a doodle, a sketch, but I think it's fun to sort of paint over shapes like this. And then maybe once we do that, and again, these there could be like the roofs of buildings. Maybe we put in some of the light on this side and this side, sort of in the middle of the painting. And I'm just gonna draw these in just like lines. So I'm just almost like I'm just like I drew the dark lines here. I'm basically still just drawing the shapes, but now with a bright, like a with a white line. And I think it might work pretty well. So it's basically I'm just drawing. You know, here's one in the background. Drawing with the white. Maybe there's some, you know, light catching here. Here. This is something that I haven't really done before. Like, I draw with the dark all the time, so, like, once I make my general blobs, I will take, like, a dark line, and I'll just start sort of carving the forms out, say, okay, well, here's the roof, here's the underside of the roof, and, you know, maybe it's a little darker there. You know, maybe there's a little thingy sticking up here. Like, whatever it is, right? Maybe there's some windows on the side of the building. You know, maybe this building has, like, some foundation type thing. Right? Like those little sticky things. So yeah, like maybe there's a foundation here. But then to do the same thing but just with white is also another thing that I haven't done a lot of, where you're you know, you're still implying the foundation, but because it's on a side with the lighting, now there's just little build sticks and stuff popping through. I don't know. It's kind of a nice way of like implying some details. That's something I haven't done a lot of, but it seems fun. And it makes it look more detailed than it is, you know? Actually, I really like this composition. I think this is nice. I do wonder if I can't silhouette some of this. Maybe there's some more in the back. No, maybe not. Now I'm curious, what's down here? Do we go darker? Part of me wants to go darker, because that would add less contrast down here, which means our eye would be drawn upward. Because blue is darker, and then the bases of these are quite dark. Although if we do that, now it's almost making the thing feel off-center. I don't know. I kind of like it, though. Sort of like that. There, that's something. These shapes of these buildings could obviously be very designed. Sticking out on top. We could do a lot there. Like, for example, are we going to go spires, or are we going to, you know, have these flat roofs? Maybe one is a spire, one's a flat roof. We could do all sorts of stuff there. Could also make them even more golden or like orangey at up top to really make them glow. That might be a little much, but could also be fun. Gives that fantasy feeling a little bit more to have these wacky colors. Since we're still so early in the process, might as well go full crazy with the colors, you know? Something like that. Anyway, there's a thumbnail. Okay, what about another one? Although this one I don't like that red there. That's fine. Just work it out. Paint it. It's easy to paint over. Who needs the erase button? Or the undo button? Not me. We just paint over. We did it once, we can do it again. That's what I tell myself. Although it's never quite the same as it was the first time, but that's okay. It's close enough. Okay. Now another sky painting. How might we do this? Maybe not floating. What if we do... I don't know. Maybe like a sky that's like hills rolling down that we're kind of looking downward on. So our eye line will be higher. Okay, I'm going to draw a line here. Just to put something there. So maybe we have like if we're looking downward on like a mountain or something, maybe we have like a mountain range. That kind of goes like that. So here, actually, I should just draw that line. So we could have like a mountain range here, a bigger mountain here, and then mountains here. Maybe something like that. And or if we were to break it up in the foreground, midground, background, maybe we have like a foreground here, a midground here, and then a background back here. Something like that. That could work. Although we would now need some contrast there, right? We need some contrast behind the background mountain. I still want this to feel like we're looking downward at this, though. That's going to be the tricky part. I think that's where adding, like, contours would help. Kinda, so it's almost like where these are three-dimensional forms. And the contours would... Down here, for example, they might be, like, thicker. As if we're seeing, like, a ledge. And then up here, we're getting straighter and straighter. So here they're going to be more rounded, and up here they're going to be flatter because this is our eye line. Something like that might work. So that's still mostly a sky painting, but then we can put the clouds in here. Maybe we put some poofy clouds back here, like right behind the mountain. And again, we can put some horizontal lines here just to like help our brains try to understand what we're seeing. I mean, clouds don't have to be above your eye line, by the way, right? So that's the tricky thing, I think, because like you could have a cloud down here that's below you, and that would also be in perspective, right? But it's tricky to do that because, at least it is for me. Hi, back. Hi, you're back. How's it going? That was my bad attempt at a dad joke. How are you? Welcome back. Oh god, he's so funny. I know. I'm hilarious. I am hilarious. I cracked myself up. And that's what's important. In my opinion. You gotta be able to keep yourself entertained. I'm good. You have food? Nice. This kind of makes me look like this kind of looks like a reflection, doesn't it? It's like if this one down here had a water line, it would kind of look like a city floating on the water, but it's not. It wasn't intended to be. So that doesn't come across. I actually had this problem when I was doing a commission recently-ish, right? In like February, where when you have things floating, if it's in the sky, it doesn't always come across as it's in the sky, because it might look like it's floating on water. And so trying to put clouds in front and behind. Because if you just put clouds behind, it could still be ripples in the water. Apple teeth. Yes. There's a subreddit called Bone Apple Tea that's basically just people taking common sayings and getting them so terribly wrong. And it's funny just to hear and see people in the wild get. How do you fix that? So I think that there's a few ways. For me, it's overlap. But if you just put the clouds behind, it'll look like they're it could still look kind of like it's reflections. But also putting the clouds in front would be helpful. So behind and in front. You could also add context cues, like put a bird, right? Because the birds aren't going to be in the water. So if you put some birds here, it might be more obvious. So here, I'll bust out the bird brush, right? You can put some birds in there. There's obviously other ways. You know, obviously, if I were instead to put a guy in a boat down here, you would immediately then think it's the water. So there's different ways. Obviously, as you render it more, I mean, it can be hard. I mean, I know professional artists who've had finished, polished professional work be mistaken for water when it's not, or be mistaken for clouds when it's not. I mean, it's a hard thing to do. I mean, I think what makes it what makes it tricky is that we already have a context clue in this scene that tells us it's water, right? And I'm not trying to make it there, but we have it whether we like it or not. That context clue is the buildings, right? Buildings don't float. Buildings are on the ground. If you saw a real photo and you saw a building and there was just an ocean of blue below it, you would assume that it's water, right? Because your brain just isn't gonna think it's in the sky. Like, there's no reason, unless you have other clues to give you the hint that it's not the sky. But like, it's not super clear, and especially when it's not detailed and it's not photorealistic. It's just kind of blobs. You've kind of got to do some work. So yeah, it's hard. You could also imply it maybe down here with some very subtle, like, you know, green, like a river or something. You know, if we could see down here, like maybe you like if you took some aerial photos from an airplane, and whatever you see in those photos, you know, maybe you see the little bits of ground way down here if you're low enough to see the ground. Maybe there's just like a faint bluish ground down here that you can see. That could help give you context clues. But you do have to do some work, and I think this kind of falls into that category of, like, you know, if your initial vision didn't have those things, if your initial vision didn't have the birds, didn't have clouds, didn't have rivers and, you know, things down here that are really tiny, this is where you have to, like, change your vision, right? You need to communicate it, and sometimes doing that that means you have to add things. And that's I think probably one of the parts that I really do just find so fascinating about painting. It's that visual communication aspect of it. Because yeah, some things are just hard to communicate visually. I mean, a lot of things in real life, even if you see the thing in front of you, it's not always clear because there's real life optical illusions. And if you're painting one of those things that are hard to show even in a camera, it can be especially hard to show it when you remove detail in a painting. So suddenly you're just, yeah, I don't know. It makes it fun though. Those are the fun problems to solve in painting to me. So, or at least some of the most fun ones. It's sort of like with characters, right? It's like if you were trying to, you know, make someone look angry, but you can't show their face, right? Suddenly you're like, oh, okay, well, gesture, right? How do I show them stomping off and being angry, like shaking their fist, or what do you do? How do you show someone angry without showing their face, right? Or, you know, how do you show? I think for me, how do you show something floating without seeing the ground is hard, right? It's just a hard thing to do because like if I could put the ground in here, right? I would literally just put the ground and then draw the thing above the ground, and now you know they're floating, right? Because you can see the horizon, and so that's easy. But yeah, when you don't see the ground, it becomes especially hard, right? So yeah, we could put the ground in here, that way down here, off in the distance. So this is kind of the equivalent of like, you know, paint someone who's angry without showing their face. Or maybe not even showing them at all, right? It's like, show me the character is angry without, you know, show me the you know, the destruction left in their wake or something. I don't know. It's like you're basically flipping the script a little bit of what we assume to be true, and you're saying it's no longer true. I don't know. It makes it fun. You know, paint a spooky scene in broad daylight, you know, or paint a sad scene with everyone smiling, right? How do you make a scene feel sad to the viewer when there's a bunch of children laughing and playing, you know? Like, what's the how narratively, how do you set that up? Like that's tricky. It's totally doable. You know, I'm sure it is. I don't have a solution to that one, but we could do it. Yeah, that stuff's hard because it really makes you like think about, well, okay, well, how does that work? Like, what are times in my life where that's been true? And yeah, you really have to, like, I don't know, kind of dig into your brain a little bit, or and if it's not something that feels like you can do it, this is where like you learn to see as an artist. You learn to pay attention to those things of like, what visually is making this look the way it's looking. Making something fly higher. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's another good one, right? Because if these were all floating, they would all be on the water, because water is always flat. So yeah, making some float higher than others would absolutely help, right? So making some of them up here. Yeah, that's a really good one, right? Or down low. Maybe there's some off in the distance down here. Although, again, we'd have to be careful because we don't want it to look like a reflection. But yeah, we could do that where this thing is, you know, breaking the foreground. Yeah, that's a really good one. That's probably, honestly, the best one. Yeah, good thinking. I didn't even... I feel like I knew that because actually when I was doing the last floating castle painting, that was actually one of my solutions. I think, anyway. But yeah, it's, yeah, making some float higher than the others. I think, yeah, my solution was to put little, like, floating rocks down low. So I don't think I specifically put the buildings at different heights, but I did put, like, the land masses, like, breaking off, and they were floating at different heights. So you had some up here, some up there. That way you could kind of tell the whole scene was floating. But yeah, it's definitely not easy. You start noticing other things on people's art. Yeah, well, and just on being aware of all the, like, again, like sad scenes when people are smiling, or you know, spooky scenes when it's very bright out. Just these sort of anti-tropes, right? Like things that go against the common assumptions. You start noticing those even in real life, you know, you like I mean, maybe I notice this because I feel like this happens to me a fair amount, where like I'll say something and someone will completely miss what I was saying. And oftentimes it's like all the little social cues that maybe I don't do it. So maybe my words will indicate that I'm, you know, unhappy, but maybe my face is smiling. And so someone thinks I'm excited about something, or they think I'm happy. I'm like, no, you totally missed the point, right? Like, you didn't get what I was saying because you were looking at, you know, maybe you were looking at body language and not listening, or maybe they were listening and not looking at body language, right? Like, anytime I get something wrong, maybe I try to then think about, like, what did I miss, or what, you know, like, sometimes there's little cues or clues that tip me off that like, ooh, this is a time to pay attention, right? Like something went wrong and I want to understand that because that's a thing I can use in art, right? Um, like because it's visual, right? Oftentimes it's visual stuff that I miss, or maybe it's not. You know, again, it doesn't. Anyway, I find that stuff interesting. But it's also exhausting trying to pay attention to stuff like that. Okay, let's do more skies. I like this one. These colors up here are quite interesting. It's not really a sky, or wasn't supposed to be, but we could make it a sky. Also, these greens and purples and stuff are kind of neat. Maybe we do more floating stuff, but maybe the floating stuff is like so there was this this art that so back in the day, I say back in the day, but really I still occasionally play Magic the Gathering. But back in the day, I played Magic the Gathering. And there was this I can't speak. There was a card called Celestial Colonnade. And just today, I stumbled across art for it. And I'm like, it was new art from a new Magic set. Because I follow the person who made it on Twitter. Or maybe on Instagram? I don't know. But anyway, I stumbled across the art and they called it Celestial Colonnade. Like, I know that card. It's from like 2010. It's like it's a 15-year-old card. They've reprinted it, remade the art for it, and this artist that I follow is the one who made it. And it's very much like this. It's like an elemental kind of, so it's like a giant earth creature kind of, but it's like in the clouds. So think of like floating rocks and islands that kind of make up the form of like a creature. And the new art of it is extreme. It's so intricate and it has so much little like floating island shapes. Think like, you know, if this is a bunch of different shapes that are going to make up one shape, think of it like this multiplied by like 1,000. There's just tons of these little detailed islands overlapping, and the amount of detail in this art was crazy. But yeah, I don't know if the part of that's so seeping through to today's painting, but I'm kind of in the mood for like floating islands, and it's very Celestial Colonnade is very much a floating island. You know, it's not really, but it no, it is. It's a floating. What do you call it? It's a land creature. Elemental. I think it's an elemental. Anyway. Muffin says, I have found myself paying more attention to the choices I do when drawing scenes nowadays. A lot more thing to take into account. Yeah, and you know what's funny? I think this is one of the big differences between, like, you getting better at art. It's just you having more information to make choices on, right? It's like, the initial idea may not be better or worse, but now you know so many more things about what to pay attention to, what choices you can make. When you make them, there's even more choices that follow. And it's like, you've probably seen people do like, you know, art when I was 10, or, you know, art 5 years ago and art now, and their new art, it's very clear they spent way more time on it. But like, that's because it takes you longer. Not always. Sometimes you get quicker as you get better, but also sometimes you're just able to spend more time in art because you know of more things you can do, right? There's more fiddling you can do. You're not just like, oh, that's as good as I can make it, right? No, now you can keep improving it because you have a better eye for what is wrong with it. And so it's kind of this tricky situation of like how those comparisons of like those before, you know, 5 years ago, like 2020 art and 2025 art. It's hard to do those because it's hard to do them fairly because you have a different yardstick for making the art. Like the things that you care about now when you make art are just different, right? You can't keep everything the same and just focus on skill because the skill is like might determine when you stop, and you're just not going to stop until it's better because you are better now. And it really is a weird it's weird. And I always see people online try to like call those out, like that's not a fair comparison because you just spent longer. It's like, yeah, because I knew of more things to fix. Like that's how being better works. um just having higher standards and knowing what those standards are and having the skills to execute them, like it can take a long time. Granted, I will say that the flip side of that is that maybe your standards for like what is important change, and sometimes that means less details. So I actually have found that in some ways it's the opposite, where I actually in some ways quicker now than I used to be because I focus less on details. Although I don't know if I was ever super detail focused, but I do think I focus less on details now, or at least I don't value them as much. So I tend to skip them earlier, kind of. I don't know. So I actually don't spend a ton of time on most art, but I think for a lot of people, you know, a lot of styles and a lot of people, they do like to spend time on art. You know, they like to spend the time on details still. Like there's plenty of, you know, extremely good artists who are very detailed in what they make, you know, because they've sort of found a way of working that they enjoy. And so for them, they are just spending longer on their paintings now. I think back like 10 years ago, I don't think I could have spent 80 hours on a painting. I probably could now if I chose to detail it all, but I'm pretty sure back then I just wouldn't have known what to do. You know, once I make a shape that kind of looks like something, I don't know how to detail it. I don't know how to make it look more like a thing. Also, what am I doing here? I'm just making like a shape, swirling shape of something. Kind of looks like a wave. Whoa, speaking of detail, Carson Druitt. How's it going, Carson? Welcome in. If you guys don't know Carson, he's amazing. Carson, hello. Ludus, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How's it going? Joe, you are being invaded. I am being invaded. How are you? How's the day? How is your stream? Let me just put something that looks halfway okay. I don't know. Does that look halfway okay? That's something. Anyway, hi, Carson Invasion. Welcome in, Raiders. How's it going? My name's Joe. I paint stuff, mostly environments. I'm stealing Skittles' introduction line. I mostly do. I do a lot of like thumbnail sketching each stream. A lot of, I guess, they're more idea sketches than real thumbnail sketches. They're technically in thumbnail form, but they're just to get ideas, and then we're gonna take one, and then we'll work on it till the end of stream and see how far we can go. And let me show what we did last stream. So this is what we did last stream. We picked this thumbnail, we worked on it till the end, and it got to there. Anyway, you got a raid and run? Nope, not allowed. You got a art tax. You got to share. But I was doing some traditional inking today. Gotcha, okay. It's probably a little hard for you to share. Here's what I can do. Because I know you have a... Do you have an Instagram? I don't actually know. I know you have like a Twitter, I think. But let's go to Instagram. You never know what's going to pop up on Twitter when I share my screen. So let's go to Instagram. Search for Carson Druitt. You probably haven't updated your Instagram, right? I think last time I shared the screen, you're like, oh god, Instagram, I haven't updated that in years. I don't know if you update... Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, the art-wise, it's still good. Oh yeah, this is from 2024. Okay, well, it's been a while. But this is the kind of work Carson Druitt... Oh, that's trippy. Oh, here's blue sky. There we go. Oh, you can't see this. Perfect. Perfect. You can't see it now. Okay, here, let's go to media tab. I know how to use this site. Look, I'm proficient. Okay, so this is what you were working on today, I think. Is this from today? 3 days ago. No. Okay. Ah, look at these. Look at these cuties. Art has still been taxed. Yeah, it counts. It counts. it counts as art tax. But yeah, Carson does these super intricate drawings, and then he does like an inking over them. But like the amount of detail is just the little lines, the amount of little lines and cross-hatching. I guess to me, my brain reads that as detail. It really isn't though, right? It's kind of just like tidy cross-hatching, kind of. I don't know. What do you think of it as detail, or do you think of it more as like? I mean, you do like there are detailed shapes though. I don't know. Like this stuff. Do you think of it as detail, or is this more just like a filigree type thing? Like it's implied detail, but it doesn't feel like it's always super precise. Yeah, it's kind of texture detail, kind of. I don't know. Like some of it feels very crosshatchy, in nature, but it's very tidy. And then some of it's more just like a textural type thing. I don't know. It's all great. Also, cat. Love the cat. Tomato. Look at tomato. Surface info. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's true. It also describes the form. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, surface info. It's just extra information, I guess. Anyway, you do it very nicely. I to me, it feels like detail because it is very tidy. And that tight, like my surface information is very scribbly, and so it just looks like scribbles. But yours actually looks very intentional and really, really good. But I love this stuff. It's so good. Okay, time to run, but happy to raid my friend. Happy painting today. Thanks. Yeah, I just love it. All of your work is so good. So also look at the creepy face down there. That is cool. But yeah, so Carson does like all of these as far as I know. I don't know if he takes like this is daily sketch day 113. He's been doing these on stream in one sitting. This is like a one session drawing. It's wild. It is absolutely mind-blowing how good this stuff is. No, you don't wish you could work more like me. Are you kidding? The way you work is just so good. Anyway, I could just scroll through all your work for a very long time and just be blown away. Okay. Okay, that's I like this one. It's a great mix of creepy and weird. Actually running away now? Yeah. Alright, take care. Have a good day. Thanks for popping in and bringing your community over. Alright, let's get back to doodling. Here, I'll share one more thing that we've done recently. I focus a lot on... Actually, I'll show two things. I focus a lot on color palettes and sort of the mood and the vibe of a painting. So it's less about the detail, it's less about the narrative sometimes. Sometimes just like a mood sketch, kind of like this. And then from here, we vote as a community, we work on it for a few more hours, and then so it'll end up something like this. So this is a painting that we did pretty recently on stream. Also like a one session painting. But see, unlike Carson's work, if you zoom in, this is just like, what is this? What is that? Like, it's just big messy shapes, you know? Just blobs. But yeah, anyway, so we do a lot of this where it's more about the vibe. You know, we get some reflections and stuff. But we do, I guess, like this to me is, whoops, this to me is still kind of the same in a way. Like functionally, it kind of is the same as like it's detail, right? It's information, like the shimmers on the water. I'm not being careful with them. I'm just blobbing them down. But it's the value contrast is giving that info. So that's something that, yeah. So that's kind of what I do. But the shapes are super effective. It's super effective. Yes. Kim Okja fan. Or Kim Dokja. Is it Kim D? I don't know how to say your name. Kim. Thanks. Talking about detail, now that I started trying to draw scenes, I do a shape of something that kind of looks like the thing, and I don't know how to detail then after. Yeah, it's hard. I think to me it's a fine line of like making sure it's three-dimensional, because you don't want to fall into like I mean, I kind of did it here, But if you're not careful, you'll end up doing like, I'm gonna paint a house, and your house will look like this, right? You know, it'll just look like a you know, like a literal house that a child would draw, right? I think a lot of detail is in the three-dimensionality of things. It's allowing yourself room to go in and fiddle with the silhouette, right? It's also adding a little bit of three-dimensionality to it. You don't have to do a ton, but just enough that, like, if you were to detail the windows, for example, you could show that there's, you know, maybe shutters that are opened, you know, and maybe the shutters are casting a shadow, you know, or if there's a light coming in this way, you know, maybe there's a little shadow here because this window pops out a little bit, right? I think, to me, you don't have to think about, like, I don't really do the kind of detail that Carson does, because he does a lot of, like, textural stuff. For me, a lot of the time, the detail is simply trying to understand shadow and light. So maybe this shadow here, for example, if I have the light coming from this direction, maybe I'll know there's a light here. We'll get rid of the... No, we don't have to get rid of this, right? So maybe there's a light there, and so this side's gonna, you know, these will be in shadow. But maybe, actually, maybe it's not. Maybe this is in light, right? So maybe that's in light. Maybe this is gonna be in light, but there's gonna be this shadow hanging down. So now I'm adding additional shapes, right? It's no longer just the outline of the building, but now there's this shape in here, right? I'm adding another shape. This shape is of light and shadow, right? And then on the edge of the shadow and light, maybe I do put some, you know, little details or something here, where there's, you know, little indications of texture. And so sometimes you don't have to go... To me, detail is oftentimes, it's still just refining shapes. You know, I typically will add in values in there, and subtle value changes can go a long way. But, like, I think, like, where am I going to add detail? Well, what if there's a foundation here in the house, you know? And it kind of sticks in here. And so maybe we have another line that's making a shadow. Ah, we're getting raided! So maybe there's another line down here that sticks out like this. And this line... Oh, we're going to change the silhouette a little bit. And this line's going to be a little darker in value. So now... we actually have another shape. We've just made more shapes. Welcome, Raiders! Bria, Katrina, how's it going? Welcome. My name's Joe, I paint stuff. Right now I'm talking about how I detail, kind of. Because, like, I detail differently than... We just got raided earlier by Carson Druitt, and he does a lot of intricate line work and stuff. And I was just talking about how I detail stuff as someone who does not do detail, right? My detail is, like, it's blobby. If you zoom in, it's ugly. Doesn't look good. But so yeah, my detail is just adding more, like, you know, another layer of shadow information, another layer of silhouette information, you know, being a little bit more careful with the kinds of information I add. So that's how I do detail, is, like, I'm not coming in here and, like, you know, putting the bolts on the door frames or anything. Like, I guess I could, but it's a lot of it's more like value. So, like, okay, well, this is going to be a different value. This might be a different value, which means the shadow's a little darker. You know, stuff like that. If I do any line stuff, it's typically right along, like, the edges. Stuff like that. But most of the detail that I do is more along the silhouette. So for example, if, like, the edge of this building, well, that will still be a straight line. So, like, this edge, right? I might go something like this. Right? So now we can understand that this building has a bit of a... You know, maybe we'll put the lines here. Right? So now we can kind of understand that this building has a little bit of a... what do you call it? Well, that actually doesn't read very well. But anyway, hopefully you get the point that I'm trying to make. You know, it has that little bit of an overhang. And it has, like, little panels that hang down. Right? So that helps. Same thing up here, right? I could do the same here. Where these actually come down like that. Right? So I'm changing the silhouette to imply more details. That's something that, because I don't want to, I mean, I could go in and render every brick, but that just doesn't feel like it's necessary yet, right? This stuff's more important to me, to show that the silhouette of the house is changing with the detail. And only then would I even consider doing the other stuff. But yeah, anyway, Brianna, how's, you do lots of sketchy line art into comics. Oh, I would love to see. Art tax. But yeah, I guess I'll give an introduction of what I do. I do a lot of this kind of thing. A lot of thumbnailing. We take a thumbnail, we vote on it as a community on one of these, and then we work on it till the end of stream, and it might end up like something like that. So that was from a previous stream. I'm going to close those without saving. And this is what we're working on today, is these thumbnails. And then in about 40 minutes, we will vote on one of these and work on it till the end. Carson and Bria raid. Yes, I was in both and late to the raids. Awesome. Skittles, the multi-lurker. Hey there, mate. How are you? Budgie, hello. I am doing well. Yeah, you can post a comic you posted last week. Yes, great. Yeah, you don't need a permit. You can just drop a link straight in chat. I would love to share it off. And if you have to raid and run, I totally understand. Streaming makes the brain mushy and needs food to re-nourish yourself or something. But yeah, oh, okay, you've shared. Great. What is this? Hypercube Cube Cats. I actually don't know. What is this? Oh, it's Tumblr. I'm not signed. I don't even know if I have it. What's happening? Ah, we're getting a raid. Wait, another raid. So many raids. OMG. So, seriously. Well, Budgie was just chatting before they raided. Budgie, hello. It's an educational link? Okay. Yeah, I don't have to be signed in, right? Okay, you're gonna have to coach me through how to use Tumblr, because I'm a boomer. Okay, so... if I just click it, does this work? Wait. Okay. Ooh, I like this. I like how it shows... okay, this is cool. Uh-oh, math. Hey, we like math on stream. I know artists hate math. I like math. Math is great. I love to talk, you know, I like to use math analogies occasionally, and I think it makes people leave because math is scary, apparently, for artists. Yeah, math is great. Like, even if you're not doing calculations, just the concepts in math, I find can be very useful to help think about the world and life and art and stuff. It's like this idea that it's so separate. Like, it's not separate from art. I mean, physics is like extremely useful to help understand the world around you and understand natural phenomenon, and like, yeah, you don't need to be literally doing math, but like, anyway, math is cool. I like math. Okay, math. Compound assignment. String. Wait, what am I looking at? Add auto size plus -2. Subtract size -1. I'm trying. I think I'm reading this the wrong way. I think I'm lost. As much as I like math, I think I'm too stupid for this. I love the visuals, though. Can I just say that I love all the visuals. The visuals are great. The first chapter is physics, and the second chapter is computer science. I don't know any of the words here. Modulus? I don't know what that word means. What's your favorite number? I don't think I mean, the right answer is 42, right? I don't think I have a favorite number. I don't know. Same with like, I mean, look, I am an artist and I don't even have a favorite color, okay? So this is not a thing that I really, I mean, I guess gray. Grays, plural. Modulus is like finding the remainder when dividing. Gotcha. Okay. I love the art though. Look at this. The light, the art is super cool. Am I looking at community artwork? Yeah. Sorry, Budgie Rampage. Yes, I am looking at the art of Bria, who just raided us. Bria just raided, and I'm looking at their art. So many raids, I'm getting lost. Yes, Budgie, if you would like to share what you were working on, please do. Welcome in, raiders. My name's Joe. I paint stuff, mostly fantasy landscapes. Yeah, we're looking at math-related art, and it's awesome. I see string going around an apple. Hold on. Okay, what? This is what I'm confused about. String going around an apple? Or there's an arrow around an apple. And a box. Modulus is very useful in game dev. Gotcha. Bria's got a raid and run. Hope the rest of the stream goes well. Aw, thank you. The apple is data. There's a previous page. Okay, yeah, okay. I felt like I was missing something. There's a previous page that explains it. Gotcha. No, these look great though. I mean, they're very like well laid out, and it looks like it's very clear, but I feel like I'm just missing something. But yeah, no, these are great. Thank you so much for sharing. But yes, do feel free to share, Budgie. And yeah, we are doing just some sketches. I was doing a lot of like sky stuff today, painting some sky things. So here's some clouds. We've got a floating city in the sky. Some other floating stuff with sky behind it, although it's not super clear right now. But yeah, we're just kind of making things floating, playing around with different ideas. Some are more straightforward, some are a little more wacky, and we'll just see where it takes us. One of the things that I do a lot on stream is sort of start with a blank canvas and just paint. Because I'm a big believer that you don't need to have a good idea. You don't even need any idea when you start. You certainly don't need a good idea, because oftentimes you build on ideas over time. And by trying something out, you discover what it is you actually want to paint, or you decide on something that you want to paint, not what you actually want to paint. That makes it sound like there's some secret thing that's just waiting to be discovered by you. No, but like you build it up as you go, and as you make choices, it leads to more choices, and before long you've built something and you're like, oh wow, that's really cool. And so I'm a big believer of kind of that way of painting. I know a lot of people, as somebody who, when I was learning art and trying to get better at it, I never really had any ideas. So it's sort of something that I'm quite, I don't know, I guess I'd say I'm quite passionate about that aspect of art, of like not having great ideas or not having ideas at all. And so I like to just start off painting and see where it takes me and make choices and get ideas. Like, this kind of looks like a dragon. Maybe we paint a dragon. Or maybe not. Maybe it's a bunch of rocks. So yeah. But do feel free to share art. Anybody can share art if you just raided, or even if you didn't just raid. Drop a link, and I hope everyone's doing well today on this Saturday. It is Saturday. It's a Saturday. Okay, I don't know what all this stuff is, but it's kind of fun. Maybe there's like a mountain range. I don't know if this will look good, but what if we up the scale a bit? So what if this were like a mountain range and we put some bluish color in here? Sunday, 3:18 a.m. Oh dang, that is where, let's see, where are you? Like Australia? I'm trying to think where you might be. Is that Australia? I feel like that could be Australia. You are 21 hours ahead of me? No, that's not right. That's 13 hours ahead of me. No, wait. Just finished streaming? Yep. Oh, you are Australia. Okay, dang. Yeah. I was trying to think how far ahead you are. Yeah, no, that's a long ways ahead of me, though. No, that's 12, 13, 14, 15 hours ahead of me. So yeah, you're 15 hours ahead of me. That's wild. You're in the future, man. I didn't think it looked like... It did kind of look like a dragon. It still kind of looks like a dragon. I don't really want to paint a dragon, so I probably am not going to turn it into that. But I could, and that's the nice thing about this is, like, because I'm the one in charge, if I think it looks like a dragon, I can either lean into it, or I can steer it away from that direction. And otherwise, it's just kind of fun with colors and shapes and stuff. But yeah, Budgie, art tax if you'd like. You do not need a permit. Anyone can share. But I would love to share off what you were doing, because I don't really know what you were doing. I assume art, but that could be a wrong assumption. Hello, Trash and Can. How's it going? Gaming. Oh, what game were you playing? What game were you playing? Yeah, I guess I should stop assuming that everyone's always doing art, because that's just not how it works. I'm adding a lot of blue here. Hello, Joe. Hello, chat. Hey, Lego Bimo. How's it going? Hope you're doing well today. Happy Saturday. Okay, we've changed the color palette quite dramatically, but I'm okay with that. We were talking about earlier making shapes look like they're floating, and how it can be really hard if you don't have, like, a clear ground plane. Like, obviously, if here's our eye line, and here's a bunch of trees, and I put, like, a shape above us, like this, it's pretty obvious that these are, you know, well, okay, it's not obvious that those are trees, but, you know, if I do something like this and make some tree shapes, it's pretty obvious that this is a floating island, right? Because, like, you can see the sky behind it, right? It's quite a bit harder when you don't see the ground, like this, for example, because then it can end up looking like it's water, right? These, like, lines here might make it look like it's the ripples in the water. So it can be quite hard, and so sometimes you have to put little context clues. And something like this is sort of a nice mix between it, where you can have some things floating, and maybe some things not floating, like behind the horizon. And so you you get a nice mixture depending on your perspective. So, for example, this might be floating, but it's still, there's ground behind it. Joe, any chance of summer sketch exchange this year? You know what? Yeah, there is a chance. There's a very good chance, in fact. Although, I was actually thinking of another event, maybe tomorrow. I know it's short notice for people who aren't aware of this. I don't actually know if this is going to happen, but if I find time, not tomorrow, Monday. I don't stream tomorrow. Monday, perhaps, if I find time tomorrow, I will look, I want to do like a gray box paint over type thing, sort of like a community event where we can all get like the same basic gray model. So just think like a geometric model of a bunch of random shapes in a gray box format. You know, maybe some cylinders, maybe some, you know, different shapes, different sizes, fat shapes, skinny shapes, you know, big shapes, small shapes, everything. And just kind of arranged in a way, you know, maybe something that kind of looks, that sparks your imagination, you know, maybe some stair-steppy shapes, whatever it is. And then we take these simple geometric shapes as they are and basically design over them. So maybe this would be like a pile of rocks here. This would be rocks. Maybe this would be like a bunch of very flat homes and houses. And then maybe these would be more rocks. Maybe this would be a group of trees. And that way, in the end, it kind of, like, almost as if it was like a level design, where you are deciding what the things are, but the level designer put the layout. So, you know, the general layout existed, but you are designing them. So you're basically doing away with the actual shapes and just using them as like the blueprint. So that could be fun because that's something I haven't done a lot of or on stream. So it'd be more like a environment design as opposed to environment painting. I don't know if anyone wants to do that. It might be, you know, I think it could also just be fun to maybe watch me struggle with it. But, you know, because I would be starting with sort of a pre-made thing, and I would be sort of problem solving it too, I figured you guys could join it along in my struggle. But yeah, I might do that if I can find some good gray box model type stuff before Monday, because I don't want to make them myself because I'm lazy and I'm busy tomorrow. But if I will at least do a Google search and try to find some that somebody else has made, and maybe it would be fun to do a paint over. So, but yeah, no, I think a summer sketch exchange is definitely in the cards. There's no reason we can't do it. Yeah, I'll have to think of a time. I'll have to think of a good time to do it. Let's see. What's the date today? Today is the 12th. Maybe I mean, we could do like the 26th, maybe? Maybe the 26th of July. So not next week, but the week after. We could maybe try for that 2 weeks from now. That way it's still in summer. But if we wait too long, it'll be out of summer. So. Yeah, we could try that. Kaneda Hazuki. Oh, Kanada Hazuki. Oh, I don't know why I just said your name. I was... Thank you. Oh, thank you for the follow. I had tried to... about a couple months ago, I had put on anonymous follows. It used to say the name right in chat when people follow. It still says it for me, but it no longer says it to everyone. So I apologize for saying people's names. But anyway, thank you for the follow. I do appreciate it. I just goofed up. Let's see. The Budgie says, I enjoy watching your streams to help me get back into painting. Aw, that's very nice of you. When I watched last time, I suggested underwater painting from the eye door pick from last time. Oh, you suggested this one. Underwater. Oh, okay, I remember. We didn't end up going with that one. We ended up going with this one. I don't know if you suggested this one too. But yeah, we went from here to this painting. This one was kind of weird, but it was fun. It was a little bit of designy stuff. Oh, it's different. A little different than what I normally do. Let's see. What else other chat have I missed? Kaneda Hazuki says, you're welcome. I like the sketchy and painterly style. Looks having fun with paint. It is. I think it's a lot of fun. It's fun to just play around with shapes and sort of composition and colors and mood. It's not, you know, not getting bogged down in details too much. So it is a lot of fun for me. Lego Beamo says, have you ever tried to paint the same prompt with the community to say how everybody... Well, that's kind of what I want to do on Monday, maybe. It won't really be the same prompt, but it'll be the same layout, and then everybody can kind of do their own theme. Have I ever done the same prompt with everybody else? Maybe. I don't remember. It would be fun. We could do it. If anybody has a good prompt, we could do that too. I'd love to do more community things. So if you have a good idea of sort of maybe some prompt suggestions, I think it could be fun to do some sketchy prompt things. I know Anthony Wheeler does a thing that he does called Chaotic Draw Along. So maybe it would be a bit like that, but environment themed. I don't know. It doesn't have to be specifically environments, though. Budgie Rampage says, it's okay, it was nice seeing the changes you can do. Yeah, I like using just like random starting points and then not holding myself to the idea. Again, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, I'm a big fan of just letting it, so long as you're painting for yourself, you can pivot at any point in the process, right? It's not like just because you had an idea, you don't have to stick with the idea. You're not letting anyone down. You're probably just making the idea better by elaborating on it. So sometimes I'll just start with just like random colors. And you don't need to have some grand idea. Maybe it starts off with, I'm going to paint a, you know, a giant cavern. And within this cavern, you know, there'll be, oops, let's paint a giant cavern. There will be like a, hold on, let's get the cavern down before I start rambling too much. Oops. Here's a cavern. Why can I not select that? What is happening? Okay, there's a giant cavern. Or maybe we'll go like this. Oh, I goofed up. Okay, we'll go like that. And then so here's a cavern. It may be in this giant like canyon or cavern thing. Not cavern. I've seen cavern. I meant canyon. In a giant canyon, maybe there's like a you know, things built into the side of it, so we get some, you know, dark shapes of like these little caves in the cracks of the wall. And again, maybe this doesn't look good, or you know, you don't like where it's going, but that's like a spot we can start, right? So maybe there's these walls on the side, it's carved in, maybe there's some extra little thingies sticking out, you know, like this is sort of a place carved into these mountains or something. Maybe there's some spires or something. But like maybe from here we're like, okay, this idea is kind of stupid. Like what if we change it? And then we're allowed to change it because it's ours and we can do whatever we want. So it's like sometimes one idea just sparks another idea. And that's kind of what I like to do when I'm painting. It just makes it a lot of fun. It's almost like freestyling kind of. You're just going with the flow and having fun, and it really is like a process over destination thing, kind of. I don't know. I find it fun. And it also lets you just like try stuff. Like what if I did, you know, lighting on the side of the wall here? You know, these things have a bunch of light cast on them, and even though there's random shapes right now, but what if there was light? And like even if you can't tell what this is, or like what if this was all in shadow, and maybe we get rid of that front facing thing. Again, it looks terrible, but that's okay for now, because we will make it look better. And yeah, maybe this thing, there's this cave, so it's still dark in here. I've actually painted stuff like this before, so I don't know if I want to, but maybe the shadows will be a little more blue. Maybe it's no longer a cave and we just do like a mountain range, but it's in one of the mountains, so maybe we do like a foreground, kind of like this one actually, kind of copying the same composition. But maybe there's little, maybe some of these spires over here, Bob Ross style, the blue and the white. But maybe this one has some opening, and maybe there's like a pathway. This pathway has that bright blue on it. That. So we still have our cave with the carving, but now it's like that. Lego Bimo says, do you like playing with Brush Engine and make your own brushes, or do you use the standard ones downloaded from the internet? So I use a brush. So I have all of the above. I have, you know, I have standard brushes like the airbrush that I use quite frequently. I actually don't have even the original hard round brush. Something happened to it. I think it deleted it. But I've since gotten other hard round brushes, or hard square brushes. I have a ton of brushes from tons of different artists, and I've kind of settled on like just a handful of brushes that I use. These days, I pretty much just have been using this brush by Zach Retz. So this is a brush I downloaded. It's free on Zach Retz's, here, I'll type in, well, here, actually, I have two things. So brush it. I have a command right there. There's a link there to my brushes in Clip Studio Paint. That's this one, which I made. So this one, which I haven't been using this much anymore, so I actually need to update. But this was like the brush I was using before the one that I'm using now. It's basically an opaque brush if you want. It has a little bit of texture, but it also lets you make some nice hard edges. So you can, because it has some texture, it has some nice blending, you can imply some detail. It's pretty comfortable to use. You know, you can blend or whatever. It's pretty straightforward. But anyway, so there's this brush. Yeah, the airbrush I use a fair amount, and then I use this brush lately I've been using a lot, which is this is the brush by Zach Retz. Again, same as the brush I just showed you. It's opaque if I want it. It has a little bit of texture, but it also has a nice smooth blending, so you can kind of just, you know, blend colors, and it's quite nice. But yeah, I don't use a lot of different brushes. I don't constantly play around with brushes or anything. I kind of just find something that works for me and go with it. I think the times that I play around with brushes the most are when I start doing a lot of detail work, where like if I want some super crisp line work, I might need to find a brush that's a little bit more hard-edged, because this can get a little soft around the edges. But for this big, you know, these big sort of compositional things where I'm still figuring out some of the basic shapes and the composition, I don't care too much about that level of precision or anything. So, but yeah, the artist that I keep referencing though is Zach Retz. So somebody mentioned that they don't endorse him as a person. I don't know anything about him as a person, but he might be a terrible person. I don't know. I don't want to say that as if he is, because I have no idea. But this is me just talking about his brushes, not him as a person. Anything about him is, I don't know. But anyway, you do not have to pay for those brushes. They're free on, I believe, on a Gumroad of his somewhere. You can find them if you want. I don't have a link to them, but it's probably just Gumroad, Zach Retz. It's probably on like his ArtStation or something somewhere. But anyway, yeah. So that's that. But yeah, my brushes. I'm not a big brush person. Oh, hi, brushes. Yep. Oh, hi, brushes. Oh, hi, Mark. Lego Beam said, I was just curious about your software choices, especially you being a painter. CSP is more drawing-oriented, kind of? I've always painted CSP. I mean, I use Photoshop initially, but no, I don't even think that CSP, I don't know, is it more... I think its brushes are great. I've always liked CSP's brushes. I think, I don't know, it works for me. But also being like painting is one of those things to me that's very primitive. You don't need fancy tools really. It really is just putting big shapes and blobs down. You know, some of them are light blobs, some of them are dark blobs. Yeah, I like it. I like CSP for painting. I've never had any issues with it. But yeah, I have heard people say that before. Like CSP is meant for drawing, or it's best for drawing, and maybe I do think it's pretty good. As far as I know, it's very good for animation and line work and all that. But yeah, I just don't do line work. It's not really a thing that I've done lots of. Also, what if we do this? Let's change the shape a little bit of this thing. And the reason I want to change the shape is so that I can get more... like that, maybe? Have you heard of Paint Storms? I have heard of... So I have a hot take. Okay, Paint Storm makes me angry. The program itself seems fine. I haven't used up much of it. I think last time I used it, it seemed to be a little laggy for me, but it seemed very cool. I actually liked Paint Storm. My issue with Paint Storm is that the initials are PS. You can't say, I made this in PS. because people will think that's Photoshop. Whoever named it, shame on you for giving it the same initials as Photoshop. Seriously. Because then you have to, like, I can't, like, normally I can be like, oh, I made this in CSP, and someone's like, what is CSP? And then you can say, if you say I made this in PS, they're like, oh, Photoshop. And you're like, you'll never be you have to always say the full name, or else the name will never get out there, right? If everyone's talking about CSP and no one knows what that is, you can at least Google it. But if you Google what is PS, it's going to give you Photoshop. So there's no, like, self-propelling brand, like, building, right? Like, it's awful. Anyway, that's my biggest gripe with it. So whoever named PaintStorm, you need to rebrand, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't know when it came out, because no one's ever talked about it. No one ever talks about it, and if they do, I probably mistake them for thinking it's Photoshop. So anyway, that's my rant. But yeah, no, it's very painterly. It does seem pretty cool. Everything that I've seen about PaintStorm is kind of neat. But it does make me a little angry that someone chose to name a program PS in the era of Photoshop. Their brush engine is Chef's Kiss. Yeah, their brush engine is good. Yeah, I don't yeah, this brush actually, the one that I'm using now, is actually quite nice. It's a dual brush. So brush 1 is this texture brush. So you can see there's like a texture-y. But if you paint, you can see as I paint, it fills in perfectly. There's no gaps in the brush because it has like a smooth brush as sort of like a secondary brush. I don't quite know how it works, honestly. So it gets this like some brushes, like well, this other brush of mine, right? This brush, if you're not careful, it'll have texture, right? If I paint very lightly, it still has texture here, which is kind of annoying. So unless I paint very hard, this is the only way to make it textureless. I can't do a light textureless thing, right? It has texture. And often it's when you paint light that you don't want texture, right? Like if you're doing like a lightening something up in the sky, you don't want texture back there, right? That's not where you want your detail. You actually would want less detail there, right? This is where an airbrush would be nice. But I don't want to have to switch a brush to airbrush every time I want to make something lighter. So this brush is a really nice mix because you can do that, right? And it's not going to add that texture everywhere. Because it has this dual feature where as you paint, it actually, the texture goes away. Now, if you want the texture, you can still make it be there, right? But you don't have to have it there. You absolutely can, paint lightly over something, right? This is me pressing hard. Obviously, it goes away, but so does painting lightly. So this brush is really nice. This is the one by Zach Retz. So yeah, brush engine-wise, this one's amazing. It doesn't have like any, there's no mixing turned on in this brush. I've never used CSP, so I can't say for sure, but it's a texture blending mode problem. No, what do you mean? This is intentional. It's a dual brush. What do you mean? That's intentional. Is that what you're saying? I don't think there's really any. No, CSP I think it has a really nice brush engine. It's better than Photoshop's, from what I can tell. The only thing it's missing that Photoshop has is like the mixer brush, which is a different brush. It's not a setting. But no, this has lots of good brush settings. It's very customizable. I quite like Clip Studio Paint. Yeah. No, I don't know. I think Clip Studio Paint's great. I don't use I will say I don't use a lot of the paint mixing tools. There are lots of blending options that you can add to brushes that I don't. So in that regard, I use pretty basic tools. Yeah, I don't quite know what you mean by that, Lego Bimo. It's a texture blending mode problem, in quotes. Yeah, no, it's not a problem. The reason I like this brush is because it smooths it out. That's not a problem. Why I used braces. Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that then. I'm just not sure how to explain it. Yeah, no, this is a feature of the dual blending options that they've added and how the settings are set up. It's very nice. Yeah, it's just how the brush is configured. Lots of options to configure stuff in interesting ways in Studio. So yeah, if you want to get into interesting brush settings, there's lots of room for that in this program. It's very customizable. I do highly recommend it. But yeah, I'm not a big brushy type person. I use brushes obviously, but I'm not like constantly on the search for new brushes that often. I occasionally will fiddle with new things and try things out, but so long as I can, I feel like I know enough about the mechanics of painting and like the types of things I might want that occasionally there will be something that I try to do. I'm like, this brush just isn't good at it. I try to make these hard edges, but I keep getting a blurry soft edge, or maybe I want a chiseled angular shape, and this brush just can't quite do it. I know that like, oh, I could make a brush to do that, right? So like if I really want something or need something for what I'm doing, I can either make it or find a brush. Um, but I don't feel like I'm really in this stage of painting where it's like I just am blindly hunting. It's more like oh, I want a stamp brush. Let's make the stamp brush, or so I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, brush talk is always funny to me because I want to be careful to give people maybe who are not used to painting sort of the impression that brushes are like, it's just about finding a good brush. Like I don't ever want to accidentally misconstrue that. Like I think I like to try to focus on more like drawing fundamentals and the skills because those are the things that I really value. And so I want to be careful not to give too much sort of airtime to like talking about brushes because it's not really something that I care that much about. So I don't want to make it sound. Sometimes I have the problem. There's sort of this what's it called? I think it's called the availability bias, where like if something's talked about a lot, people will assume that it's everywhere, that's more important than it is, because it's like, oh, this is the big issue. Well, it's not a big issue to me. So I do want to be careful with brushes, in the way that I talk about them. I think what I need to do is improve on shadows. Yeah, the classic beginner question is what brush do I use? Yeah, and I think a lot of that is just because a lot of people talk about brushes. It's like a fun thing to talk about, right? It's like the amount of like techie YouTubers doing tech reviews and talking about one product or another, like people start getting the sense that, oh, the product really matters. I need the right art program. Is this tablet the right tablet for me? It's like it doesn't matter. Just like pick a tablet, and if it can do the basics, if it has pressure sensitivity, has a stylus, you're good. They're all kind of the same. Like, yes, some of them are different than others, but it's not that important. And I think that's the thing that I think it's nice to talk about that. And yeah, nice round brush with opacity. Seriously. One brush with hard edges, one brush with soft edges, and you're good to go. Or you could do a brush just with soft edges and maybe a lasso tool for your hard edges. And then you can do everything. I wouldn't do that, but you could. Yeah. Dang, these are looking good, Joe. Can't choose my fave yet. No worries. You got 10 minutes. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, we were doing some sky stuff today. Some lighter scenes with some light. And I was trying to avoid getting too dark in my paintings. These two paintings are very similar. So I wonder if I can combine them in a bit, or combine them a bit. If I do, I might delete one of them. I actually like these floating thingies. I think they look neat. But if I go the floating route... Yeah, these are very similar paintings. They're similar color palettes, they're just different layouts. You were looking at the last four? Oh. Oh, these? You were looking at these? No, wait, these aren't. These were from last stream. I know you don't do Grimdark, but I have the certainty that you would do Grimdark backgrounds and it would be awesome in hardcore. I don't do a lot. Well, it's funny because I actually love painting like swamps and I mean I have definitely painted kind of grimdarky stuff. I think if I were to do Grimdark specifically, I think what I would do is I would probably add a lot more textural stuff because I actually like here I've painted some darker, this isn't grimdark, but I painted some darker subject, a lot of darker stuff. You know, I love painting swamps. I think swamps are some of my favorite things to paint. But yeah, I think it doesn't oftentimes have the aesthetic of Grimdark because I think Grimdark has a lot more grittiness to it. Oftentimes. Hey, nice lady over there. Hello. These are gorgeous, man. Thanks. They are too high fantasy for you. Yeah, these are very like high. All of these are very high fantasy. Well, not this. This is just a cloudscape. But you know, floating island or floating cities and yeah. No, I definitely have painted some very gray scenes. You know, with sort of darker, more creepy aesthetics. Definitely done some of that. Maybe I'll have to do like a grimdark scene where I paint some darker themed stuff. We can see how that goes. But Tobal Art, thanks. I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, this one needs some help though. It's just kind of I think it was like the bare bones of a thing. But yeah, I'm trying to paint like a cave in the mountains, kind of maybe with some snowy stuff around it. It's kind of fun. That's similar to can you accentuate what makes them different? Oh, these are very similar. So this was just me riffing on the same idea. Basically, this one has floating islands. Yeah, I could accentuate what makes them different. I could focus on, you know, really pushing the floating aspect of these islands, maybe the shapes to be more vertical. Maybe this one I level out or I you know, focus more on like the what do you call it? The slope and do like the slopiness. Maybe I change the shapes of these to go off the canvas. So it's not so much spires. I could totally do that. Yeah, that's a good idea. And maybe we put some of that light down here or something, as if it's peeking through the cracks or something. But yeah, no, these are very similar. They will if we end up voting between them, they will be hard to vote. But I think already that would solve it. And then from here, you know, maybe we do some sort of shape carved in here to make it feel like it's some old, I don't know, ruins of a place. Maybe it's brown, as if it's like stone or something. I don't know. Not quite sure how I want to do what I want to do there. Maybe there's little like waystones on the side and leading in that are just kind of like these little pathway things. But yeah, that's definitely a good suggestion. Nice lady over there says, give the purple tones to the floaty one, maybe. That's true. Yeah, we could lean in more purple on the floaty ones. Yeah, definitely. We could do that. I might get there in a bit. I do kind of think it would be fun to bring in more, like, yeah, maybe more yellow-orange on this one. Or orange-blue, and maybe, I don't know. They are very similar. But I think... I mean, we could even do something totally wacky and go, like... oops, not glow dodge, like do an overlay layer, take some purples or something, and like add some like crystalline looking colors, like purple crystals or something. Just go kind of something like that to really lean in. Yeah, like kind of like you said, or oranges over here. So just, I mean, that's making the colors a little more extreme, but just something. And yeah, maybe we play more with oranges over here. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed. I know it makes it not fun for voting, but I actually wouldn't be opposed to doing the purple colors in this one as well. It just makes voting hard because they're so similar. But that's not really a problem for me because I'm only going to work on one of them. So if we go the route of, say, this one, then who cares what this one looks like because it's going to basically be trashed. Flip horizontally one of them so the shapes aren't the same place. That's true. We do have a lot of samey. I mean, oh, you mean, what do you mean flip horizontal? Like make these actual shapes? I don't know about that. I don't know if I want to do that. I do think using these shapes more like, yeah, they do look very similar, but I don't know that they need to look too different. I don't know. I don't know. Could probably even bring down some shapes. Like flip it. Oh, you just mean graphically just flip. Oh, I see what you mean. Flip horizontal, like. Like that. I mean, that's almost the, yeah, that kind of works. That's kind of push the focal point in, oops, in a separate spot, right? Let's push the focal point there as opposed to here, so it's off-centered. I'm gonna stop hogging chat. Love your work, man. Yeah, no worries. I actually don't mind the suggestions like that. I don't necessarily always agree with everybody's suggestions, but no, I think those are good suggestions. The only thing that's tricky on stream is because these are just kind of idea sketches, and we are gonna vote on them. See ya, Muffin. Wait, Muffin, are you leaving? Who's leaving? Somebody's leaving. He doesn't. The only thing that's tricky on stream is because these are just kind of idea sketches. I actually, like, on one hand, I genuinely don't... Did I flip everything? No, I didn't flip everything. I mean, maybe I flipped everything except this one. I don't know. But the tricky thing about this type of thing is because these aren't... Like, sometimes they're distinct ideas and sometimes they're not. The only big reason to really make them different is so that people don't sort of split their vote between them. So like if you were to have one person who kind of likes this one, might instead vote for this one, and so none of these win, and then these end up winning instead, and you're like, well, these were just better. That can happen. But I do have like multi-vote on when we do voting, so people can vote for either. Also, I kind of like... Maybe we just cut out the background here. And we do focus on these weird triangular shapes. That could be kind of fun. Number 5 is very nice. I like number... Oh, number 5? Thanks. Yeah, number 5 was tricky. Because it's like a floating... It kind of looks like it's in the water, which we could have made it in the water, right? It kind of looks like this is the water line. Or something. And it wasn't. It's supposed to be floating in the sky. It's sort of the problem of when you can't see the ground. Oftentimes, you know, like I pointed out earlier that if I wanted to paint a floating island up here, this would be immediately recognizable as a floating island because it's above, you can literally see it above the skyline, right? Like here's the sky and there's this gap and it's obviously floating. But this is different because now you need to add some context clues and it can be a little hard. And so yeah, I kind of added some like little I just use a bird brush to plop in some birds, put some shapes, wispy shapes. If we end up voting on it, I'll have to make it more readable, but sometimes I save things for later. I'm a lazy painter. Sometimes, like, because I know in my head what something's gonna be, so I'm like, okay, well, if it wins the vote, I'll make it better. I'll fix it later. That's the moral. That's not the moral. What am I talking about? That's the tale as old as time in this stream. I'll fix it later. Trying to bring in some of that lighting. Try and make this big pyramid shape. All of them, but I think that one is your favorite now. No. Yeah, well, we're about ready to vote. I'm gonna spruce this one up a little bit. It's not gonna look as good as the others because it's just obviously way behind, but that's okay. Maybe we'll put some shapes up here. You know what? We could do something with green. We don't really have any green in our paintings yet. This hill goes that way, so let's go this way. And then that way. Maybe. Then we'll make this like a light green. Something. That could be kind of fun. Little green shape up here. Green. Some more. Some shapes. Some mountains. This stuff can maybe have some subtle blues in here. Probably not a lot though. Keeping it dark would look good. Something like that. I don't know. Kind of weird. But anyway, it's something. It makes it more interesting, in my opinion. It's kind of relying on some classic shapes that sort of... That'll work. Although I'm not totally sold on that. Hierarchically, they kind of look the same. Hey, Joe, do you have a Discord? I do have a Discord. Exclamation mark Discord. Right there. We do. Every other Sunday, but not tomorrow, but the next Sunday, we actually watch videos in Discord. So that's like the one activity that we really do in Discord. Of course, there's, you know, people chat, ask questions, share stuff. Always welcome to share videos or art resources and stuff. We have like a resource and references and resource channel for like like, you know, learning resources and stuff. But yeah, we do indeed have a Discord. I also put all the thumbnails from each stream in there, so I could actually do that right now and show you. We have a channel where... Here, let me do it right now. Oh, one second. One moment. Let me... Where's that thingy? So, in Discord, let's put this on screen for a moment. There. In Discord, I have a channel called Thumbnail Archive, where I put all of the thumbnails from each stream. So, like, let me just copy paste these right into here. And basically, it's just an archive of all the thumbnails that we've done. And then, of course, the one that won the vote, and then what it turned into. So we kind of go through just, you know, here's some architecture. This is the one it started as. Obviously, it changed very dramatically into the final. But yeah, there's just tons of them. I mean, you can... This one, I actually don't think I put the thumbnails, but yeah, so just all these recent paintings, different stuff. And of course, the puzzle that I'm working on, which I still need to finish. It's basically finished, but I do need to do more work on this, and before I finalize it, make it a puzzle. But yeah, so that's gonna be a thing. This is my off-stream project. So I'm trying to finish this one off stream. We spent quite a few days working on it on stream, but this one it's just, I'm kind of just rendering it. I don't do a lot of rendering, but that's one of them. So yeah, you're welcome to pop in, introduce yourself. There's the welcome page. You'll have to click the little emoji to get access. Then once you're in here, you can, introduce yourself. We have references and resources for like interesting stuff. And then, of course, an art share channel. You can drop art, share it, all the normal things that Discords tend to have. So yeah, welcome in. There is your introduction. Yeah, that's fine. It all works. All right, let's do a straw poll. Let's vote. Muffin says, I looked away for a moment and painting 2 took shape. Yeah, it was just some general, like, mountain shapes, and so I kind of reshaped them a little bit, added some values, some color variation, and yeah, I just tried to make it a little more interesting. It still isn't great, like the clouds make no sense, but it works. It kind of works, kind of, sorta. Yeah, not a bad variety of thumbnails today, if I do say so myself. I think they turned out pretty okay. I actually like the shapes here. I don't know if you guys play Magic the Gathering or not, but there is a set called Zendikar, which has these like pyramidal, weird geometric pyramid shapes. That kind of reminds me of this, almost like these weird geometric shapes like built, like crashed into the landscape. Now, I don't know, this might be too similar to this, but it's kind of cool. It reminds me also a little bit of a painting I did years and years ago, for a person who runs a dice company, and it was like the bunch of dodecahedrons. That's 20-sided dice. Different dice of different dimensions. Some 10-sided dice, and 4-sided. All the different dice like stuck in the ground, kind of. So these geometric shapes kind of reminded me a little bit of that too. But yeah, this one's actually kind of neat. I kind of hope we vote on it. It would be fun to work on. But anyway, let's do voting. So I will make a straw poll real quick. With 6 options. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Allow selection of multiple votes. Create poll. Valkyrie, hello. How's it going? All right. Here is, I took my face away for a moment. If anybody would like to vote on these, there is the links, or the link. There's really one link. I will pin it to chat for 5 minutes while we ramble and drink some tea and save our art and do all the stuff. And just yap, I guess. Tough decision. Well, you can vote for multiples, so if you like both 3 and 6, which are a little bit samey, you can vote for both of them. Thumbnail's looking good. Aw, thank you, Valkyrie. I appreciate it. Yeah, I honestly, I would be okay with just streaming thumbnails all day and not ever refining them. But I do think it's fun to sort of take one and try to polish it up a little bit for. If you want to vote, vote in the straw poll so that it actually records it. Because at the end of the timer, I'm going to go based on that, unless there's a tie break, in which case I might move the voting. Oh, people like 4 the most, huh? Interesting. I'm definitely partial to 6, but 4 is just a skyscape, but literally just a cloudscape. There's no content, there's no subject matter, there's no man-made structure. It's just clouds. But I get it. It's different than what I normally paint. So I understand people liking 4 the most, but I voted. I want to vote on 6. If you guys don't vote 6, you have voted incorrectly. This is the real test to see if you vote correctly. I'm kidding, obviously. Vote whichever one you want. I will be happy to work on any of them. There's always something fun to do with them. People be like, yeah, clouds be nice. Yeah, it's funny. I have a different sort of yardstick for deciding which of these I like the most, and that's based on sort of where I think it might go. With something like a cloudscape, I don't really know where it's gonna go. I don't really have a big plan for it. You know, a lot of these, like the floating rock ones or some of these mountainscapes, there's a million things I could do. I could add cities in here. I could add, you know, lore and designs and rune stones and all sorts of, like, you know, I could add characters traveling, right? I could do all sorts of stuff. But with like a random cloudscape, like, what am I gonna do? The silhouette of a building in the background? Like, I could, but that's, you know. So I'm not trying to like hate on it too much, but then do 6 and gift me number 4. I mean, you could work on number 4. You guys are, by the way, Fox brings up a good point, kind of, or a good topic to bring up. If you ever want to do like a paint over on any of the thumbnails that I have here, so, you know, going back to our Discord thing real quick, if you ever wanted to like do a paint over on one of these thumbnails, feel free. Like, I don't care. You know, obviously if you're gonna post it somewhere, like, you know, credit me, maybe show a before and after and credit me for the thumbnail. But, you know, you're happy to paint over them and use them as like a base. Yeah, just, I mean, just make sure you credit me and you know, not, you know, they're for personal use only, not commercial work or something. Not that these would be good for commercial work, but, oh, sorry, you can't see. Oops. But yeah, if it's just for like for funsies and you want to turn it into a painting, go for it. And obviously, if the painting totally is different and, like, you know, you take a blob thumbnail and turn it into something that's super nice, yeah, like I did this, you know, whatever you want to call it, the thumbnail sketch, and you did the final, and that's fine. Yeah, just give me credit, and I'm fine with that. Yeah. Yeah, I have no problem with people doing that. I mean, they're not these, you know, super complex, sophisticated paintings. They really are random color blobs, mostly. Some of them have some thought behind them, but some of them are quite bare bones. So yeah, I definitely don't mind that. In fact, I'd actually be really curious to see what people do with some of them. Like, if somebody took thumbnail number 1 and wanted to design something on it, I would be fascinated by what people would come up with, because I don't even know what I would do for number 1. But I wasn't speaking about modifying it, but having it on your piece. Oh, I mean, you could do that too. If you want to just put something with your background, that's fine. There's nothing stopping you. Yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, just be forewarned, I don't know how any of these would do if you were to zoom into them and make them very large. You know, if you were to, like, to make this a background, it really is just a blob. So, like, you know, is this going to make for a good desktop background? I don't know. But it works, I guess, for this. Up to you. Again, I'm not stopping you. Morally, nah, I think it's fine. Okay, which one won the vote? Number 4. So it looks like we are working on number 4 after all. I mean, I appreciate you asking. I think that's the most important part. Or, you know, you being here, showing support, and just hanging out means a lot. And of course, then you can. I actually had a recent encounter with someone who basically said, cool art, I'm taking it as my background. Or as my... No, it wasn't even background. So, okay. I've ranted about this before, so I don't want to go too far into it. But I think for me, there's a difference between like I'm gonna use it as like I'm gonna print it out and stick it on my wall, which honestly I wouldn't even probably care that much. Like again, I don't, if you see cool art online and you like it, like whatever, stick it on your wall. I don't care. It's for personal use. To me, there's a big difference between doing something like that, like making a mood board of your favorite stuff and printing it out. Like whatever, put my art up there if you want, versus like publicly making it yours kind of by like re-uploading it to Instagram without any credit or like putting it as your banner. Like so I had recently somebody put my art as their here, I'll show you the art they did. And it was very weird. They put this art as their Twitter banner. And normally I wouldn't care. I wouldn't. Sir Cheesy, hello! And hi from Rihanna. How's it going, Rihanna? Long time no see, Cheesy and Rihanna. Hope you are all are doing well. I have Joe art on my wall at work. Aw. Yeah, so normally I wouldn't care if you were like, hey, I like this and I'd love to use it as a Instagram banner or something. I'd be like, that's fine, I wouldn't mind. Especially if you're someone who hangs out here and you show some level of support, you follow me on somewhere, like whatever. If you're someone who's a fan, I don't care. But I had this case recently where somebody on Twitter basically said, cool work. I'm taking it as my banner now. And I'm like, you're welcome? Like, they didn't even follow me. They as far as I know, they had never seen my work before. They're just like, yoink, it's mine now. And I'm like, this is kind of weird. There's no credit. There's no like, hey, I'll credit you in my profile. It was just, thanks, it's mine now. And I'm like, that's a little rude. You didn't even ask. And so there are times where it's a little strange. But yeah, overall, I don't mind at all. I think it's flattering, mostly. You're thinking of streaming. Oh, that'd be cool. I feel like you do good at streaming. What sort of stuff did you think of streaming? I could totally see, like, I guess it depends on what you, yeah, I'd be curious. Alright, let's save. Did we save? So this is the one we're going to work on. Well, actually, you could take legal action against that. Yeah, probably. But, like, what would I gain? I mean, I could send maybe, like, a cease and desist and try and scare them or something. But, like, ultimately, if someone... I think things like public-facing profiles are this weird spot for me morally, where... For some people, it's their business and their brand, which in that case, taking someone else's art is probably not good, right? If you're like the Twitter CEO and you take my art and put it as your profile, that's like not okay, right? Because it's the brand, it's the company's profile, it's the business is, it's their storefront kind of. But if you're like a random person online, like it's probably not a business. It's probably not a brand. It's just like your private profile. And so there's kind of this weird gray area to me of taking art, and it also depends. Like for me, like because I make art, everything I post on my Twitter is mine. I've made it. I'm not gonna post your art on my Twitter unless it's a retweet, right? I'm not going to re-upload it because anything I upload is mine. And that's kind of the assumption I think you can make. And if I were to ever re-upload someone's art, I would absolutely credit them to make it very clear that it's not mine, right? That's what I would do. But I don't know if I would hold others to that standard. So it's kind of it's sort of an interesting topic. Some weird moral implications and... Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things I don't think is a huge issue. If you're not trying to clearly making money off it or trying to make money off it, I don't really care. But yeah. Yeah, I think if you're an artist, even if you're not, but always try to ask for permission. Just show some level of support to the person you're gonna, you know, like, hey, I really like your art. Would it be okay if I use it as a desktop background or as my Twitter banner? And they would probably say, yeah, I'd love, that's fine. I'd be flattered, and but feel free to credit me or something. And I think most artists wouldn't care, unless you're saying I want to use it as my YouTube, branding or whatever. That might get into weird areas. But yeah, I don't think most artists would care. Some might. It's always good to ask. Definitely always good to ask. We ran into a I think there are edge cases where it really makes it clear why you should ask. So I think in a lot of cases it kind of doesn't matter. But the reason why you ask is like, what if you were like a really bad person, right? What if someone who associated with like the worst ideas or the worst things possible took your art and plastered it all over their profile? Like, you don't want to be associated with that. Even if they credit you, you don't want them to credit you publicly. Not when they're being terrible, right? Like, suddenly if they're saying mean and hateful things and like, by the way, this art is this, like, you don't want to be associated with them. And so that's where, like, ask me, because if you're being terrible, I'm going to say no. So, like, yeah, just ask. When in doubt, just ask. But most of the time, I think most artists would not care. As long as it's not business. So, what am I going to do here? I think for this, I'm going to just work on making this kind of painterly, having fun with values and colors and subtlety in here. Maybe do some brushwork stuff. Maybe I'll play with some different brushes. This painting is actually very similar to this one, right? It's sort of just a cloudscape. The difference is that this isn't really a sunset. And so, maybe what we do is if we put some buildings in here, like some towers. Let's just say we make some Disney-looking building. Here's some building, some tower. What if, on here, we do, like, a light source? So, a little bit of light shining in here. At the level that I am, I would take that as a compliment. Yeah, I mean, I also typically would take it as a compliment. I mean, for me, it really comes down to just, like, a case-by-case basis. 90% of the time, if you were to ask me, can I use this for personal use? It's purely personal use. There's no possible way I'm going to make money. I would be like, sure, But yeah, once it's turns into a business and I'm like, that's where it's like, no, I might like to be a part of your business and we can make a deal, for money, but don't just take it and start making money off of it. But again, the reason you ask is because there are still cases where, like, again, you don't want to be associated with something, or you want to make sure the person is, like, aware that you could change your mind. I think that's another important thing. I've even had people like, hey, can I use this as my as background art for like a podcast of their banner page? And I've even told people, yeah, you can, just link me to the thing and, like, let me know what it is, first of all. And once you tell me what it is, I'll tell you if you can use it for it. But also be aware that at any point in time, I might ask you to take it down because maybe I licensed the work. And if I licensed work, not that I've ever done that, but after it's been made, but if I did, it might not be allowable for me to, maybe I wouldn't want to, depending on what the licensing agreement is, I wouldn't want to have it out there in other places, So if somebody wanted to license some work for me, I would probably need to reach out to anyone who's contacted me about using it and be like, hey, by the way, this is, licensed and I'm going to please ask you to take it down. You're not allowed to use this anymore. you know. But again, that's never happened, but you know, the copyright holder always reserves that right. I had someone ask me if they could use my art as their Discord profile picture. See, yeah, I think that would be flattering, you know, especially if you were like, yeah, credit me too, you know. Also, I don't know if I like this tower back here. You know what I should do? I should first play around with shapes, figure out what I want to do here. There's some... Oh, wait, do I still have... Did I ever turn on my face? Yeah, okay. My face is here. I have a face. Little fluffy clouds. I could probably find some references for this. Unless I'm going to paint to the edge of the canvas. Do I want to make these trees or just a skyline? If so, what kind of skyline? Some mountainscapes, some buildings. I could do like a... I mean, we could play around with the kind of environment, right? We could do like a... Could do like a river or something. We could do a road. Could do a straight road into the distance, although I don't really like that. Compositionally, it's kind of weird. I'm sure it could work, though. We could also change the focal length and make it more straight, but also the road, like, basically a wider road. Something like that could work. I think that's how... If I wanted to do something that goes straight into the distance, that's what I would do, is I would change the focal length. And then that way it doesn't feel like it's so far. Needs a Wait. Wait, what did you say? Needs a levitating monk? Ah, yes. Hello, Reed Kreiner. How's it going? Sorry, mate. I gotta go to bed. Good night. Oh, yeah, no worries, Budgie. Take care. Thank you again for the raid earlier. Yeah, have a good one. Oh, I was on the wrong layer. Whoopsie. Whoopsie daisy. Wrong layer. Okay. What? Oh, what? What? Oh, what shall I do? I think I do like the idea. So back a couple years ago, I had done a floating sky castle painting where I made clouds and I made floating buildings out of clouds. I kind of want to do that again. Just like some really subtle buildings up here floating out of the clouds. Maybe a large foreground structure? I don't know. I don't really want to put something in the foreground. Sky Island from One Piece? I don't actually know what that looks like. I could Google it. Let's find out. I don't know. That must be after episode 155. Because I've only made it to episode 155. Sky Island One Piece. Images. Oh yeah, it does kind of... Wait, are those balloons underneath? Yeah, I don't recall Sky Island in One Piece. It must be later. The only issue with this kind of thing is that oftentimes it's pushing the focal point so high up in the painting, it kind of creates like this black hole down here of like, it's just either you end up splitting the focal point, or you need to have a structure kind of, like you said, a large structure kind of crossing into this area so that you can bridge sort of the foreground and background. And so I think I'll actually avoid doing the buildings back here for that reason. We could also do some sort of like those airplane trails, condensation trails, sort of putting some lines back here would be kind of neat. Maybe some up here, sort of just making some lines that can guide the eye through the scene. I'm going to bed. Good night. Ah, Sir Cheesy. Until we meet again, traveler. Ah, yes. Until we meet again. Have a good night. And if you do end up streaming, good luck. Although you probably won't need luck, but good luck anyway. Because it, you know. But yeah. Take care. Thanks for popping in. And tell Rihanna hello if she's still there. I like this. I actually think these lines are nice. I will? Alright. Take care. So yeah, I think what I might do is... Yeah, I like those lines. Those lines just bring in some focus back down here a little bit. And I think that's nice. I think anything to bring our attention back here. So maybe here we do some like something with like a steeple or some sort of, you know, could be like a building or a church or a cathedral. Fox says, sorry, Joe, I got a situation that got my blood boiling, so I'll probably stop talking today. Oh, no! Well, I hope everything ends up being okay. But yeah, no worries. No worries at all. I definitely am not always in the mood to chat either, so I don't ever feel like you have to chat. You're awesome, and I hope you have a nice stream. Thank you. Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to carve out some shapes here. Nothing fancy, but just a little bit of a skyline so we can start, you know, maybe distinguish between like farm town. Maybe there's some little buildings that look kind of like a farm. That could be a thing we do. Let me Google some farm buildings, like silo images. So maybe there's some you know, short silo things over here. Like a grain elevator sticking out the side. They sometimes have, or like the tippy top like this, where they connect. Maybe there's some little tractors that we can hardly see. Maybe there's like a warehouse or something where they you know, a wide building. Just basically just playing with silhouette a little bit. Maybe some trees. Although if it's farmland, maybe there wouldn't be trees. I will say, paintings like this are quite fun because there isn't you don't really have to do much painting. This is like the perfect painting to demonstrate the idea of just shape and design and sort of color palette and values. It really, there isn't a lot of detail to put in. It really is just like, oh, some simple shapes in the background to imply, you know, maybe some trees. Maybe you can do some shape design on the trees, but like, you know, they don't have to go crazy with anything. Oh, I don't like these shapes. Like, I guess you are painting kind of small, maybe, but if you want. But yeah, you can get away with a lot. Whoops. Simple shapes. So you like over here, the shape design's not great. There we go. Maybe something like this. Maybe there's a bit of a hill over here. It's like a slight foreground. No, that's too much on the side. There. Now, maybe we will put some sort of road in here. So now I'm trying to think, where do I want the road to go? So we clearly have this line, right, coming in straight to the steeple. So what if we had a line coming that way, right? Just maybe like straight across. But we don't want it to go all the way, or do we? I mean, we could go like this kind of thing. We could go here. Maybe I sketch this out with like a red line so you guys can see what I'm doing. So maybe I make the road go this way, or maybe I make it go this way. Do I want it curving? I don't think I do. I think I want it straight because all these lines are straight, and then the clouds themselves are quite curvy, and so I feel like the roads should be straight. We could do something like this, which isn't bad. I'm kind of thinking we might just do like something like this, and then have the road kind of go off into nowhere, and maybe we'll have it pick up over here or something. So like, you know, as if there's like these hills here. So it, you know, it goes over the hill here and then up here, or you know, it may not be a hill, but like a subtle hill, you know. Something like that could work, where it goes down, over, and then around. That way it's mostly a straight line, but it's a little bit broken. That could work. And it's not too wide, right? If we made it too wide, there's something about the perspective that feels like we need the road bigger. So I think having a pretty skinny road looks very nice, sir. Thanks. Yeah, so I think here, maybe what we'll do... Here, actually, we can bring back these lines. I'm going to make a new layer. I don't normally do a lot of drawing, but I think in this case, we could sketch in. Now, the question is, do I want to make them like that? Like, what do I want to do with the road, right? Do I want the road to feel like a road, or do I just want to imply that it's a road? I could make the road darker than everything else. I could also make it lighter, because, you know, sky could be reflecting on it. Could even put a little car in there. That could be a thing. It's been a long time since I've drawn a car. Although it's going to be very tiny if we do draw a car, right? Because it has to be on the road, so... Maybe like that? I don't know. That's kind of... I'm not sure I like that. Personally. Maybe the car... See, now that I'm adding a car, I feel like it needs to be bigger, because it needs to be like a secondary focal point. And this is where it gets tricky, because I'm painting in just values. So I'm not... And I don't think I want to paint in, like, hyper detailed or anything, you know? If I were doing a bigger scene like this, where I could put the whole car here, that's a different story, but... This is more establishing shot kind of thing. I don't know. I'm not sure it matters. We could also put like a few tumbleweeds or something in here. Or maybe like a few trees. This could give us some opportunity to play with some shape. You know what? Also, this canvas is not very big. Let's do this. We were talking about Twitter profiles or Twitter banner. What if I make it 5,000 pixels wide? $3,000. There we go. Whoops. Hold on. I'm going to rectangular marquee, cut, paste, paste again. Now I'm gonna, oops, stretch this out just a bit more. Just add some more pixels in here. And then I'm going to take this, oops. Just gonna stretch it. It'll get a little pixelated, but that's okay, because we're still painting on it. And also it's painterly. Painterly stuff can be a little bit more, you know, low res or like pixelated because it's mostly brush strokes anyway. And so like, you know, doesn't really matter. But we can come back in here and try to clean up some of it. In fact, I would even argue it's probably good not to clean some of it up. Keep some of this stuff a little bit softer and come in just where you want to sort of clean up. Just that. Here. I think we could go a little bit lighter, probably, down in the depths of the painting, down here. Although, I am at the stage where maybe the gradient is too... I don't know, maybe it was too soft. I don't know, that kind of works. And then here. Okay, and this is where I'm going to do like desert highway. I'm going to type in desert highway images. Okay, I'm looking at general values. So something like here. Let me put this on screen for you guys so you can see what I'm looking at. I like the more textury brushwork. Yeah, I think having some of it there is nice. Like I don't want it all textury. Some of the stuff might be a little too loose. Like if the shapes get a little too blobby, it can look like there was no intentionality. But I do think, especially on the interior shapes, these are quite nice being blobby. Yeah, it's kind of a tricky... Again, it kind of can turn into like a graphic design problem where you're trying to balance making nice graphical shapes with nice brushwork on the inside, you know? Or where do you make this soft? You know, maybe you want this to be blurry here, and then you have a soft edge here, you know? It's tricky, but it almost turns into a graphic design problem. Which is, you know, there's a lot of overlap between just general design and painting, you know, because when you're designing your painting, you are trying to design it to look nice, you know? Like, there's a, you know. But anyway, what was I doing? Oh, yes, I was going to open up PureRef so I can show you guys what I'm looking at. Okay, so here's PureRef. Again, if you guys don't know what PureRef is, it's basically just it's spelled just like I said it, P-U-R-E-R-E-F. That that you can Google it. It's just a very lightweight app that runs that you can just drag images from Google or any other image on the internet and just put it in there, and it just sits as like on the top layer. So you can just set it on the top layer, and you can use it as a reference. You can paint underneath it. You can even like set it transparency and trace on top of it if you need. There's lots of ways to do it, but anyway, it's just very nice. But anyway, this is kind of what I'm looking at. Where like, is the road darker than the environment around it? And for this one, it is. You know, I'm kind of looking like, are there roads that are lighter? So for example, this one, this is almost like a lighter version. Oh, actually, it's actually it is a little bit lighter. You know, here's another, right? You can kind of see from a distance, value-wise, the road is darker. That's kind of the route we could go. But I don't think that's always the case, you know? Like this road, for example, is actually quite different, right? I mean, that here the road almost looks like it's lighter than the background. And that might be what I go for. A lot of it's going to do with the lighting and the time of day. You know, if the road's in light or something. You know, different types of roads also are different. Like this kind of road is very... What's happening there? Is this AI? No, I don't know what's going on with this road. It looks awful, but it is a bright road. So that's a thing. Yeah, you can set transparency. You can set to not interact with your brush so that your brush will stay on top as you paint and stuff. There's different ways of doing it. Yeah, I don't know all the settings, but there are a lot of settings. Appearance, performance, windows, images. I mean, look, there's a ton of options in here. There's like title bar visibility, round window corners, application opacity. So yeah, you can set it to be more opaque. Right? Not that you would want to do this, but you could. If you wanted to trace, for example, you could do something like that and trace it. You can do like what's this? I don't know what that does. This removes the black border, which kind of looks nice. Colors, canvas. I don't know what that does. I shouldn't have messed with that. Yeah, there's a lot of options. Danger. Warning, danger. I don't know what any of this is. But anyway, there are a lot of options in here. There's a lot of things to like make it so you can whoa. There's a lot of things where like you can make it so it doesn't interact with your mouse, but then you have to use a hotkey to get into it because you can't use it makes it so you cannot click on it. But anyway, not important for what I'm doing. Whoa, how are you doing the black and white thing? Oh, the black and white thing. It's amazing. If you don't know it, it's a secret. No, it's not a secret. It's control. So let me. Okay, here's the quick tip for how to make your screen if you're on Windows. You have to be on Windows for this. I think there is a way to do it on Apple, but I don't know how. But if you are on Windows, you have to. It's a default for Windows. It's not an application thing, but you have to enable it first. So if you type in, you hit your Windows button and you type in color filters. And in your options, there will be color filters. You just type that in and you click it. You open up in your control panel and there will be a checkbox. Turn color filters on or off. If the checkbox is not clicked, you cannot toggle it on and off. But if it is, then you can toggle it on and off. And you can make grayscale inverted. Some of it's really trippy like this. I would not recommend doing this because it confuses the heck out of me or you or anyone. But you can make it grayscale. So Make sure it's on grayscale. Make sure this box is clicked, and you can toggle it on and off. And it's quite nice. You can check values in an instant. Again, that's Windows color filters. Yeah, it's useful. If just a caveat, just in case before anyone chimes in, if you are using Photoshop, there is a better way to do it to check values. But if you're using any other program, this is the equivalent of setting your color layer to, like, making a new layer, setting it to color, setting your paint bucketing to black or white, right? It's the equivalent of this, right? It's no different. It's functionally the same, right? This one is Windows command. If I turn this on and off, it's the same. It doesn't change anything. So yeah, anyway. So it's the same as that, but if you're using a different method of checking color that gives you slightly different values, then I wouldn't recommend this. This is only if this is the way that you do it. Photoshop does have a better way. It's a proof setup. It's like dot gain 20% type thing. The default is Control Y. You have to go into your settings though and change it from CMYK to proofing setups. But anyway, so that's a thing. Yeah, it's very handy if you're in Windows. And again, I think there is a version of that or something very similar if you're not on Windows, but I couldn't tell you what it is. I am coming in here, though, and fiddling with the values and the saturation. How bright do I want this? How bright and shiny? I don't know. So I'm kind of playing with it for a bit. Seeing what I can do with some of the colors. How dark do I want the shadows in here? I don't think I want them too dark. Right, like I don't want them super... We could go super dark. I don't think I want to, though. There's that grayness in here that I actually quite like. Some of this, though, I might want to make a little lighter. Down here. I do kind of like that. So yeah, maybe that's what I do. And then maybe I bring in some of that lighter color in here. I do think I like the lighter road, although the dark road could work as well. I don't know. I'm not sure. The issue with the dark road is that then, by contrast, everything else feels like it needs to be lighter. And that might not look good. Because I like the dark foreground, you know? Actually, that's not bad. If we do like a line here, some sort of overlap, I think we can actually get away with that quite well. Yeah, maybe we can get away with the... I mean, we could be dark road or light road. And these could be like little trees or cactuses. What kind of trees do I want, though? That's a question. We could go all sorts. Well, that's a really useful quick use. That is so useful for quickly checking values. It is. It is very useful for checking values. I use it all the time. What's really nice about using this method for checking values is that you can do it when you're doing other things. So, for example, if you've Googled desert highway, and maybe you want to check it out, like you can do it on your whole screen, right? So you're like, look, these values have this nice contrast. Look, that's nice dark street. Maybe you find a road where like it doesn't have contrast, and you know, maybe initially you're like, this one looks kind of cool, but then you're like, oh, it's actually really hard to tell where the street is and where it's not, you know? Or this one kind of blends in. Some of them stand out a lot, right? But some of them don't. And understanding that, so it can be kind of a nice way to check some values, you know, that kind of thing. But again, keep in mind it doesn't work perfectly for some of the darker colors. It's not a perfect solution, but it is something. Yeah, I mean, Valkyrie, it is a standard window option, but also it's not enabled by default, so it's not as, you know, I think a lot of people just don't know about it. And, you know, I mean, how would you, you know? Most people aren't going to their settings and seeing all that stuff. But yeah, I want to play around with some tree shapes. You know, I don't know if I want to go hard on the... Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't want trees to be here. We could do like a road sign. I mean, again, if this is a road... But yeah. Maybe, yeah, I mean, the road is very narrow. Because I kind of decided compositionally I wanted a very narrow road. So now I'm kind of boxed in to what I can get away with, you know? Like, for example, a power line might be this tall. Well, that's pretty tiny. Also, that makes these buildings massive. Which might be a reason why... You know, because if that's a building, right, this should probably be taller than a building. I don't know. This is giving me very anime. Doesn't this look very anime to you? It gives me like your name is the, wasn't that one? It's making me think anime. Kinda. I like it. I like it. What about the power poles? I don't know if I like the power poles. I think your name has a background that's kind of like this. It has like the shooting star thing, because like that's kind of in the part, and it has like the meteorite or whatever. I think there's a scene like that. The power poles look so aesthetic nowadays. Yeah, some of them do. Some of them do have some very uh intricate things. You know, some of them have like the double ones on top. Some of them are just very, I don't know about aesthetic, but they certainly have some interesting designs and stuff. I don't know if I want the power pole. I mean, maybe we do. You know what? Let's do it. Let's do power poles. Hold on. Power pole highway. Now, do I want the big complicated ones or do I want the simple ones? I think I want simple ones. So here's some power poles. We could go like wild like these. I don't think that would look good. Also, let's be real, I don't want to paint them. These are more like it. Rest in peace, power pole. But yeah, that's more like it, minus the tilting. These, not so much. That's a bit extreme. I don't think I want those. But I mean, again, we could also go these. I don't, just finding a shape that we're happy with, I mean, again, we have lots of options, right? We've got that. I mean, we've got a variety of options. We could go really wacky with these. Look at that. Look at those shapes. Never seen anything like that. What else can we do? Again, very classic right here. Just this is what I was doing. This is kind of the generic one, but I kind of like it, to be honest. We got some ones like this where we can really play with the shapes. Look at those. Those are interesting. If I was a GeoGuessr pro, I could tell you right where all these are based on the power poles. Power poles are very distinct based on location. Look at that. They're very, I mean, they're so unique. There's tons of variety. Some of them have birds on them. Check out Romanian poles. Okay, hold on. Romanian power poles. This one? I think that's what this is. Well, it's not quite the same. And don't get me wrong, every country is gonna have like the cluster of them. Like there are some like that look like this, for example, that came up when I typed in Romanian power pole. But there's poles that look like this, like, well, not quite like this, but like there are gonna be those high intensity poles where they just have like the cluster like these, in every country, but most of them aren't that chaotic. If that's what you were referring to. Spaghetti ones? Oh, I don't know about the spaghetti poles. Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't pop up immediately when I type in Romanian power poles. This? Is that what you're talking about? Or this? Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, it's not, I'm not gonna paint those, so that's okay. Concrete rectangular things. I don't know, I'm not seeing them. Not seeing them on a Google search, so... Oh, these. Oh, you mean... Okay, that's what you mean. These things. Oh yeah, those are interesting. I could see that being used in GeoGuessr meta. Those are very, very interesting. That's what you meant. But yeah, it is funny how every country has like their own power poles. Mexican poles are hexagonal. Yeah, there's a lot of different ones. I mean, they're all different, right? That's why it's a GeoGuessr meta, is because there's so many different types. But anyway, I'm more focused on just finding some basic power poles that look interesting and going with that. So let's put in some poles here. Octagonal, rather. Interesting. And then here, we'll go. Here. 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 I'm eyeballing this. There, something like that. And then this can go Do I want to go strictly, or do I want to hand paint this? I mean, I feel like hand painting these would be good. Because some of them can be a little cattywampus, a little wonky. And then they can have little thingies on top, like this. Just making little blobs. They don't need to be perfect. Actually, the little part on top here could have bits of holes too. I don't know if we want to do that. And then here we can go like this. Again, we don't need to go crazy, but these can kind of swoop down. Do we want to put a pole here? Probably. The problem with this is that now it's so in the foreground. I think that's okay. Also, hi Joe. Hi Smugsy. Okay, so we'll go like this. Yeah, my only issue with this is that dang it. Why is this so hard to draw a straight line? I don't normally do like the you know, trying to draw one line 20 times, but my goodness. Here we go. Okay, that'll work. I don't know if that's great or not, but it's something. There. I'm still learning meta. Oh, yeah, and GeoGuessr? Yeah, I don't know much about Geo. I just know that there is a power pole meta, and where everybody knows that all the power poles and like street lights and different things that are unique to countries. The only thing I know is like Japanese drainage systems on the side of the road, which I don't even know if it's unique to Japan. It's not real meta for GeoGuessr, but it's a thing, because when I went to Japan, it was one of the things I noticed. So I at least am like, yep, I recognize that. I think, yeah, I'm bad at GeoGuessr. I'm awful at it. In fact, I do the daily, not daily. I don't do it daily. I do it oftentimes. There's a game. It's not GeoGuessr, but it's called Time Guesser, where it guesses a location and a date. So it's like, you know, it might be like, you know, somewhere in Berlin in the 1970s or something. And then you have to, like, you know, so you're trying to guess the date and the time. Now, most of them are like iconic locations, but there are times where it's like literally iconic location and I have no idea where it is. It's like, you would think that if you're in front of like some well-known place in a well-known time, in an important historical moment, you would think you'd be able to get it. And I'm just like, I'm clueless. Like, there will be, like, I can recognize, sometimes I will recognize a place. I'm like, I've seen that before. It's like a big major city, and I couldn't tell you the country. It's harder for, see, oh, it's way harder for, or it's easier for me. I'm way better at that than I am at GeoGuessr. And I'm terrible at Time Guesser. So that should speak volumes of how hard GeoGuessr is for me. GeoGuessr is basically impossible for me. I can't even get the countries right. Ever. Which I don't try to get... Like, I don't try to get better at it. One thing, though, I have been trying to learn the flags of the world. Because Time Guesser, because it's from a lot of historical moments... There's oftentimes lots of flags. There's lots of, you know, like political movements or something. You might even have a person on a podium speaking to a crowd and there will be a flag behind them. It's like, if you know the flags, you can get like 80% of the locations in Time Guesser. I feel, oh yeah, definitely. Definitely anyone can be good. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that goes for literally in life. If there's a skill and you want to get good at it, you can. Now, you probably have to enjoy spending enough time to get good at it, which means because if you don't enjoy it, you're probably not going to spend enough time to get good at it, right? You have to be motivated by something because it's obviously going to take work. So if it's like pulling teeth, you're never going to, like realistically, are you ever going to get as good as like Rainbolt if you don't even enjoy GeoGuessr? Well, of course not, because he genuinely enjoys it. He spends all day doing it, or he could spend all day doing it. I don't know if he actually does, but he probably spends many, many hours because he likes it. It's fun for him. I don't like it that much, and so I would not spend that much time. But yeah, I think that goes for pretty much that's sort of my worldview anyway. If you want, like, if you want to get good at something, art included, it's just a matter of enjoying enough to spend time doing it, and also being someone who's open to difficult things, right? Like, you have to be allowing yourself to try new things, to struggle, to see it through to the end, right? You have to do something. You have to be gritty enough. There's obviously probably other things important, but just do it. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Like, there's definitely something to be said, though, about allowing yourself to, like, struggle. Try, struggle, fail, that kind of thing, right? And again, I think if you like it, you're willing to do that, right? I mean, it's fun to solve a puzzle and succeed, right? Like, that's why people do puzzles. It's not because they're easy. It's because they like the challenge of solving them. And I think that if you have that for whatever activity you want to do, I think anyone can learn pretty much anything. That's my philosophy of life. If you want to get good, just do it. Just do it. The dopamine rush of placing the final piece. Oh yeah, well, sorry. When I said puzzle, I just mean like problem-solving type puzzles. Like, it's not just about putting pieces, but I mean like a riddle or a logic puzzle or a GeoGuessr game, right? Where you're like, I want to know where that is, and then I want to figure out how would have I been able to find out where that was based on that? Like, what were the clues? And maybe you don't know. Maybe you have to research and you say, like, again, maybe you Google GeoGuessr meta. Maybe you figure out, like, maybe you formulate a hypothesis and say, I think that because this image was in Romania and these poles look very unique, let me Google all the other countries' power poles and see if Romanian power poles actually are unique. And if they are, you'll remember that as Romania. That way, then you learn, right? You have, like, that's puzzle solving. That's saying, what do I think is the, like, I mean, again, this is an art a lot too, right? Where you, like, you kind of have a hypothesis about, I think if I vignette my painting, vignette being like put darker around the edges, it'll look better. So maybe you make your blue a little deeper. I'm going to make a new layer here so I don't ruin it. But maybe you make your blues a little deeper blue because it makes the value darker. And maybe you say, okay, well, what about this side? Maybe I put a shadow here. Maybe if your hypothesis is that this is going to make it look better because vignettes draw your attention, and then you try it and you say, maybe that did make it look better. Or maybe it didn't for whatever reason. And you're like, okay, well, maybe it's not true that vignettes always make your painting better. But maybe that's your hypothesis. You try it. That's puzzle solving, right? You're trying to understand what makes something work and what doesn't, and there isn't always a clear-cut solution, so you kind of have to guess, and then you try, and then you try to learn from your failure or your success. Regardless of whether you succeed or not, you try to learn. You remember what your guess was, and you say, was it correct? And then if it was, you say, okay, well, is it always correct? And then you try to break it, basically. You find out where those rules are and how to break those rules and when they hold true. And, like, that's art, right? That's you know, like when can I break perspective? And in which ways? Is it true that if my perspective is wrong at all, it's going to look wrong? Sometimes that's not true. Sometimes breaking perspective actually makes it more clear. And trying to understand why and how, and I don't know. I like that stuff. I think I have that for art. I don't have that for everything, but I'm not always curious about everything. Some things I'm like, nope, I'm not going to spend my time doing that. It's not fun. But for art, it is. Also, my arm has like a sore on it, which sucks. Because I always lean on my chair, and then this gave me like a blister. So I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I can maybe put some other poles over here. It's kind of fun. Hey, Dargus, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Now, I don't know if I like this little fluffy cloud up here. It's kind of a weird little one. It's also kind of weird with the power pole going on this side, but there's nothing on this side. Maybe we put a big tree over here. I mean, we could put another power pole over here, but that might look weird. We probably could have put some other buildings over here. Like maybe, oh, maybe there's some trees over here. Maybe that's what we do. That's why I became a software developer. Yeah, I would imagine software development is very puzzly, right? Because you have a problem and you're trying to communicate it basically in a way, except you're with very specific. Yeah, a mountain. Yeah, we could maybe do a mountain. I think we need something over here. I mean, a mountain might look a little too strong of a focal point. Is this part of some other project? Nope, this is just our daily stream painting. Just a daily stream painting. So every stream, we typically do a series of... Here, let me close that. Let me show you what we normally do. So here is another one we did that was very similar. But at basically every stream, we do a series of thumbnails, some sketches, and you might already know this, but I'll repeat it for anybody who maybe is new here. We do a series of thumbnail sketches, just ideas, mostly based on mood and color palette and sort of, you know, like just the feeling of the place, as opposed to like the design. And then we take that, we blow it up, and we keep working on it until the end of stream. And this is where we ended with a painting a couple weeks ago. Today's is quite similar to this. This is the painting we're working on today. It started as... Let me find the sketch. Oh, I didn't save the thumbnails. Oh no, they're in Discord. Here was the thumbnail sketch. So this is the thumbnail sketch. This is the painting. I like it. I think this little thingy up here is a little weird. But yeah, it's not for a project. I don't typically do projects on stream. I like just, you know, going with the flow and, yeah. I like just doing a new painting each stream. I think it's fun. Okay, why are these so much bigger than the power poles? That's the real question. These trees are massive. Hold on. That's not good. Dang it, my scale's all out of whack. This is a huge build. Look how big this building is. That's massive. This is the biggest building you've ever seen. We're not going to talk about how big that building is. That is a behemoth. Are you having any issues with memory space? My memory, my brain, always. No, no, it's good so far. Today, no issues with memory on my computer today. So far, so good. I'm loving the color of the clouds. Aw, thanks. I like them. I like them too. You know, I guess we could have put a line over here as well to help. Yeah, I like the color of the clouds. It's fun. Today's painting's a little chill, which is good because I'm a little tired. You also have memory issues in both senses? Yeah. No, I don't think I actually have memory issues. I joke about it. It's funny, when I was a kid, my mom used to always tell, well, she made the observation that, and I remember the words exactly because it always kind of stuck in my head. Funny, ironically, it stuck in my head. She's like, "Oh, you're very absent-minded," as a way to say like forgetful or like I don't know. I don't think she meant it as an insult. But it's funny because now that I'm older, that's not true at all. I'm not forgetful. I just don't pay attention to the same things other people pay attention to. And if I'm not paying attention, I'm not going to remember, right? You could tell me something, and if I don't care, I'm not going to remember it. And I'm like, I don't care about everything my mom cared about. You know, if she tells me to do something and I didn't want to do it, I'd forget because I didn't care. And that she took it as like, oh, you must not have a good memory or something. No, I can remember random crap years later if I cared, you know? And so it's yeah, no, that's my memory is fine. It's what my attention and what I focus on is that's a different story. You know, again with art and stuff, I have great memory. I can remember stuff I painted, or I remember other paintings I've seen. I may not remember the names of the artists again because that's not a priority typically when I'm looking at it. Um, so yeah. Random crap you've remembered for years? I don't know, just random things. I don't. It's not. I don't. It's not like I remember everything. I don't think my memory is any worse or better than others. I mean, I have memories of all throughout my life. What do you mean? This feels like asking someone, "Oh yeah, say something in a different language." It's like, well, what do you want me to say? I don't know. I don't have any. I don't have a particular story that I want to tell. I don't. I'm not good at telling stories either, so I don't typically tell stories. But believe it or not, I do have memories. Like I'm not sure why the memories would be important to you. They're just random. I don't know. But no, I mean I do. I remember. I think I remember observational type stuff quite well. So like if someone makes an observation about something, whether right or wrong, I tend to remember those quite well. Like lots of things where like we'd be in the car or something and my dad would point things out that he's seeing and I would be like, how are you seeing these things? Like aren't you supposed to be driving? How are you seeing a random bird sitting on a fence post? Like that's the stuff he would pay attention to. Like, and it always stuck to me because I'm not paying attention to that. I'm not looking at off in the distance. I'm staring down at my feet, you know? We'll be out walking and I'm looking at the ground, at the sticks and the twigs, and he's out there like, look at that bird out in that tree over there. I'm like, you're looking over there? And like, you know, and it just, so it's just, so some of my most vivid memories are actually of things that I never saw, but of other people pointing things out, of like, huh, I'm very different than those people, you know? It's like, and nowadays it's funny because I actually make an effort to like pay attention to that stuff too, because, you know, observing, you know, doing art and being observant is, you know, kind of goes hand in hand. And I never really thought of myself as observant, but I am. I'm just observant and observing other things. Again, I was busy observing the ground or my shoes or my feet, you know, like I was looking down and they're all looking outward and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just off in my own little world, looking at my own little things and, you know, thinking about stuff in my head. I'm just just not always paying attention to what other people are. I mean, I give the example of I walk, I don't drive. I had a license, I don't anymore because it expired, not because I lost it or anything, but I just don't have a car, and so I didn't drive. But I walk everywhere, or I don't really ride the bus. But anyway, I walk. But I can walk by a building, every day for a year and still not know what the building is, or what shop is there, or what it's called. Just never crossed my mind to look. So I'm unobservant in that sense. I'm not constantly looking around at everything. Tends to be things that I guess I spend a lot of time in my head, which might make me unobservant. But with art, I've had to make some special, like, intentionally observing things, because, like, it's nice to know what things look like. So in that sense, I think I'm kind of like, how people like to say, like, naturally observant or naturally an artist. I feel like I'm not naturally an artist. I'm not naturally observant. I don't naturally pay attention to things that matter in art. Although, funny enough, there are probably some things like lighting. I've always liked lights, like interesting shadows on the wall or whatever. So I think light and shadow is probably a thing I've paid attention to pretty much on my own. And again, I'm not, other people are looking at, like, what the person is doing, and I'm, like, watching their shadow. I always, like, as a kid, I was a big fan of, like, shadow tag kind of things, where, like, making shadow puppets, and, like, that was always cool, because it's, like, light is interesting. Sunsets are neat. But I think it's probably one of the reasons why I'm so sort of not convicted about it. It's more like is that the right word? I have a conviction for it. But basically, when people try to ascribe, like, traits, like, oh, you're not very observant, or oh, you're lazy, or oh, you're this, I have, like, a repulsion to that, where it kind of pisses me off when people assume that someone is something about someone because they do a certain behavior. And it's like, you don't know why they're not doing that. You don't know why someone's not forgetful because they remember what you told them. They might have just not cared, and meanwhile they're remembering all these other things. They're not forgetful, and this, like, that stuff kind of hits home for me a little bit. It's like, it feels very much like diagnosing other people based on very limited or incomplete data. It's like, you can't draw that conclusion. I don't know. Or same thing with, like, moral stuff. Like, oh, that person is a bad person because they, like, and this one, not to get too serious here, but could be a heavy topic, but I don't want to get into the nuance of it. But, like, every summer, right? There's always people who will, they're. Oh, no, actually, I'll give a better example. One that's not grim. I just saw a post on Reddit, literally like 2 days ago, or maybe it was yesterday. I don't remember. Maybe I'm forgetful. But anyway, the post was about, like, the person clearly had a preconception that, like, people these days, and they were very much like old man yelling at the sky, but it's like, people these days are, the lack of education is showing in today's youth, that, grumbling about that issue. And their example of this, which to me it was so obviously not this, was that they were paying with cash at a grocery store, and the person goofed up and hit the wrong amount, and because they hit the wrong amount, they then had to do mental math on the spot and sort of figure out how much change they were owed. And because they were struggling and kind of floundering, the person used that as an example that cashiers can't even do basic math. Oh, they're so stupid. Clearly educated. It's like, okay, first of all, I've been a cashier, and that's absolutely not what the cashier would have been going through. They would have been floundering. Also, they were probably on complete autopilot. No one pays in cash these days. So when you do get cash, you're already thrown off your game. Then you goof up again, and now you're floundering because you just goofed up twice. You've hit the wrong button, and now you are put on the spot to do mental math. But not only that, your register's saying one thing, and then you're like, it's just a lot of things happening all at once, and it's like, no, you totally would get flustered, and like I would goof up with that too. I can do math, I can do mental math, but not if I'm not thinking about math, and you're like, quick, dude, give me a math problem, go, and like, oh, what? You know, where am I? You know, crap, I'm not ready for this. I had to, like, you caught me off guard, you know? It's like, it's just it's throwing them a curveball. Like, of course they're gonna, anyone would goof that up. Like, anyway, so to me it makes perfect sense. Like, obviously if you were doing mental math all day and then another mental math problem comes through, of course you're going to be able to do it because you were like primed, right? You were ready to do it. Quick, 7 times 9, 63. But anyway, I only because I'm thinking about math. But like that's you can't. Anyway, my point is, like, that's not an indication. But like, this person was so convinced of themselves that, you know, this person must just be stupid because they can't do basic arithmetic. I'm like, that just makes me angry that you're drawing these conclusions about a person or about the world based on basically a lack of understanding, and you're so convicted in this. You have such a conviction for it. It just, I don't know, it just bugs me. Like, maybe they're right. Maybe that person truly was just bad at math. But you can't draw that based on that story. I don't know. It just, yeah, that kind of thing. I feel like it's one of those things. I feel like maybe you know, art a little bit in this way, sort of, you know, people drawing conclusions about even themselves, like people saying, oh, I could never learn to do art because I can't do art right now. It's like, well, what makes you think that? Like, that feels like a really so certain kind of, I don't know. Yeah, I guess to me, at this point in my life, I feel like you never really know anything. You're never, the only thing I'm certain on is that most people are capable of quite a bit, and even when you feel like you don't know something, you can still learn it. And like, those things I'm pretty certain of. It's like I'm certain in the uncertainty of like, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things, like, with learning things. Like, even if you feel like you're not making progress, it might just be one step away of learning one breakthrough. And of course you never know, right? It's more like thinking like a scientist in a way. Where, like, you can't ever say, oh, we'll never crack this. You keep looking, right? Like, that's the only thing you're certain of, is that you gotta keep looking. You don't just call it quits. Anyway. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now and start painting. Or continue painting. You can't just assume an entire generation some sort of way because you went through one situation once. Yeah, I agree. But I mean, even, yeah, it's... Yeah. And I think art, honestly, I think art has helped in this sense of sort of trying to see things in different perspectives. I mean, sometimes quite literally, but really just metaphorically. You know, all your life you grow up seeing, you know, I don't know, a person as a person, right? A face is a face. Faces have 2 eyes, a mouth, a nose, ears, hair, right? Like, that's not a face. Like, faces, you could also look them as, you know, here, let's do this on a separate layer or something, right? But like, a face could also just be a big shape of light and a big shape of shadow, right? Again, I'm not sure if this is gonna look right, but like, a face could also be like something like this, you know, where you have two side, you know, two colors of black and white, you know, and like, you could have that as a face, and being able to, like, oh, well, faces aren't just mouths, nose, and you know, whatever. Like, faces can be these interesting shapes of light and dark. Like, that's a face too. right? I don't know. This is a terrible face. I don't know. I don't know anatomy. What am I doing? But anyway, like that could be a face, a poorly drawn face, albeit, but a face nonetheless. Maybe there's eye socket here. I don't know how to draw faces. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, you get my point. Like you learn to look at things differently, right? You learn to look at light and shadow. You learn to look at light, cool, warm and cools. You learn to look at, you know, two lines that on the surface look almost perpendicular to each other, right? They are perpendicular. You start to view them as parallel, right? This is a road going into the distance. They're parallel lines, right? They're not perpendicular, right? They're parallel. That's something that you learn to see as an artist. You know, again, if you just take them at face value, your brain is like, oh, these lines are perpendicular. But as an artist, you have to learn that they aren't, right? So it's sort of this constant like viewing things in a different way. And I think that is I don't know, I feel like there's some life lessons in there. Kinda. Anyway, I didn't mean for this stream to turn philosophical, but there we go. Art lessons for life, or something. All right, I think I'm ready to call today's stream finished. I think I'm tired. I need some food. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. I appreciate it. I do think our painting has some compositional issues. I like the part where we have... Hold on. Oh yeah, have random like other thumbnails attached to it. We like food. Yes, yeah, food's good. Bone apple tea. There we go. A little bit of... You know what? Maybe before we go, maybe we put a little bit of... stuff like that. A little bit of lights in there. Composition. Yeah. Well, compositionally, it's not great, I think. This is a little weird. Although I'm kind of not convinced that if I remove it, it would look better. I mean, it actually might. The reason being, it just kind of made an unintentional focal point. And I'd rather draw the... Yeah, I think it's better like this. Unfortunately, I mean, it sucks because I don't like removing focal points. It always feels like I'm ruining the image, but like that focal point wasn't helping. It's still fine to have a little bit of light there to guide our eye in. Right, that's one of those things where, like, it doesn't make it better. I don't know, probably. It's tricky because, you know, you don't... Yeah, I don't know. I think this works. Are these tumbleweeds? They could be. Maybe we sketch in some circular shapes in here. Literally scribbling now. Just kind of drawing in some lines. There. That's the thing. Maybe over here a little bit of a vignette. Just darken this up. Again, we were talking about vignettes earlier, but like this could be a little darker. We don't need it super bright on the edge. Oops, I did not mean to do that. What happened? There we go. Right, we can just put some darkness in there, just kind of pointing into the inside of the canvas. We could actually go like that, make this a little wider. We can keep it very narrow. There, that'll work. All right, thanks for hanging out, everybody. I really appreciate it. It means a lot, y'all being here. For everybody who's hanging around and lurking, we are gonna go find somebody to raid. And anybody who's still here from the raids earlier, that's been a while, but I very much appreciate it. There's a bunch of you here. I think you guys came in from Carson, and I mean, yeah, we had a couple raids actually. So let's see. We could raid. We got some people. We got some Steve sketches. Who else is online? I mean, Infinite Wumbo says thank you. Yeah, no problem. Maybe, you know what? Maybe we find somebody new. Let's scroll through. It's been a while. For all I know, there could be other landscape artists painting. The Final Day. Real, trust me. What are they painting? The Fourth Horn. Poketuber. Oil painting World of Warcraft. That could be fun. Rosie. Yapping. Oh, we like that. ASMR? Not a big fan. But I do like yapping. That sounds right up my alley. Let's see, what else do we got? We've got Skittle. I see him in there. Ooh, what's this? Oh, concept art. But he's doing... Oh, it looks Russian, so probably not speaking English. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through my browser thingy and looking through potential people to raid. Ooh, paleo art. Paleo stream. Dinosaurs, art, science. One with Bear is online. We've rated them before. Scrolling down. We're into the 20 viewers now. I was kind of hoping to run into like some landscape artists, you know? The art style looks Russian? No, they have a tag of Russian language. I couldn't tell you what a Russian art looked like. No, it looks no, no. I don't think there's a distinct look for Russian art. I mean, I'm sure there have been historically styles that are Russian, but no, they were just Russian, and which is fine. But I don't speak Russian, and so I don't know. I'm not totally against raiding into someone's stream who doesn't speak English, but I do, you know, if we're finding some. Wait, oh, shitty little landscapes. Well, I don't like the way they're talking about their own art, but they are doing landscapes. This might be their first ever... No, this isn't their... Wait. Ah, some little landscape thumbnails. We could do that. Well, I don't know. I found someone who's doing some landscapes. They're a very small streamer. Their name is Spin Kit T. Spin Kitty. Silly Art Saturday. They're doing landscape doodles. Let's raid them. I've never... They're the only person that I saw other than Skittle who's doing landscapes, other than the Russian speaker. Which, again, I mean, I could keep scrolling. Maybe there are some more, but... I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes over there. So, yeah. /raid. We'll go over there. Alright, this channel is intended for mature audiences. Be warned. No, I don't know. That's just what Twitch says. Alright, take care. See ya. Oh, we have a raid call. If you want to copy-paste a raid call, we should do that. Something you guys may not know while we're raiding out. So channels have this, like, different... For streamers, there's these, like, achievements, which kind of don't mean anything, but they're kind of fun for streamers. And especially as smaller streamers, if you get enough people chatting, there's, like, you know, have 5 people chatting at once, and 20 people chatting at once, and 50. So yeah, spam the raid call. Maybe they'll get some of those, and having little raid calls is fun. Anyway, take care. See y'all, and have a good rest of